Testing, 1, 2, 3. I think we are live. I look a little unkempt, I know. Don't worry about that, I'm fine. See my mustache really well now. Anyway, so today begins a new stream thing. Um, okay, good. So today begins a new stream series that I've been planning for a while, that I've really wanted to do, and that's a little loud. I'm sorry. Yeah, that's a tiny bit better. So this is Watch Later Clearing. Not a great name. Might change it. I don't know. Maybe I'm too lazy. You can see by the thumbnail that it's pretty much undefinitive at this point what the logo will be. I'll make a custom one. Don't worry. So I have. I can check here. 214 videos in my Watch Later playlist, and I need to get through them. A bunch of them are like hour-long plus video essays, so a lot of them can't be watched. But I think it would be fun to do this, especially on the off chance I could give some attention to some smaller videos that haven't gotten the exposure they've deserved in the past. And I think that's my main goal with this. So today's first video, I'm using the power of my Hi. I'm using the power of my PS5 to watch a video. Isn't that great? So, this video has been out for a few days. I might do another one, but this is like nearly 2 hours, so this will be the main feature of today. It is, let me switch to, there we go. It is the entire,
So the Superman movies.
the entire history of Superman by Alex Lennon, a great, fantastic comic book YouTuber who definitely deserves more attention in the world. So I thought it'd be fun to watch this on stream, especially since it's nearly 2 hours. In case you're wondering, I'm not sharing this on Blue Sky because this is lazy reaction content, and I don't deserve more attention for this, for stealing people's views. There is going to be a point where I have some really like low view videos where I'm gonna have to think to myself if I feel comfortable with that. But for now, let's start this. I'm sure I just rewatched his history of Batman video the other day, like yesterday, and I was like, oh, this is really good. I'm glad to check it out. And there's a few, weirdly enough, there's a bunch of Donkey Kong and Superman related stuff, and I think I might watch this video next because, I mean, what does Hank Green have to say about my lovely home country? We'll see. But yeah, this video came out perfectly. The new Superman movie, which I loved. I probably won't do a full-on review of it one day, but we'll see. Anyway, let's stop dilly-dallying and let's get to this excellent video, I'm guessing.
So the Superman movie's out now. Is it good? Is it bad? Whatever it is, I just hope that some people have walked away thinking, hey, Superman's pretty cool. I want to get into Superman comics. Unfortunately, getting into them can be a bit daunting at first.
Oh yeah.
This is DC Comics. You wanted a straightforward story beginning to end? Take your sensitive ass back to Crunchyroll. In this house, you need at least 30 years worth of comic knowledge to understand a single page. Okay, I'm exaggerating.
So, okay, from left to right we have, I wish you guys could see my mouse, but you can't. So, top left, I've no fucking clue. That's just generic Superman. That guy, left is saying together is someone. It looks like I don't know what's going on with his arms.
But even when the comic
Come on.
and a straightforward story beginning to end, take your sensitive ass back to Crunchyroll. In this house, you need at least 30
Okay, I can name. I think the one on the left is the original Superboy. I think the one next to him is Supergirl.
years worth of comic knowledge to understand a single page.
Okay, left to right. Lois Lane. I have no clue. I think that's Superboy Prime. Supergirl, Steel,
Okay, I'm
Bizarro.
exaggerating.
Don't know who the one up top is. There's a Lex bot.
But even when the comics try to accommodate new readers, a lot of people will still be put off by all of these different characters and references and stuff that hasn't happened in any
Oh god, I hate that fucking design for Superboy. Get him back in the cool ass jacket.
of the movies. You'll pick up a comic, probably one of the more recent ones, and think, hang on a minute, Superman is married to Lois and
Yep.
has a son? When
Yep.
did that happen? And there are all these older comics.
About 5 to 10 years ago, he had a kid. I think since DC Rebirth happened.
From the 80s or the 50s even. So is that the
Oh,
same
yeah, tell you-
Superman we've got now? Is it all one big timeline? Or are there different universes?
Different
What do
u-
you mean it's both? So,
Yep.
over a year ago, I set out to read every single mainline Superman comic ever published, and I've managed to condense it all into this video. I want to give the people something that's more than just a wiki page, or a mindless recap of the most popular stories. I want to give you the big picture. Superman comic ever published, and I've managed to condense it
Mr.
all
Mixley
into this video.
Spitlick.
I want to give the people something that's more than just a wiki
My GOAT, Cyborg Superman. Literally the best character ever in peak fiction.
page, or a mindless recap of the most popular stories. I want to give you the big picture.
Gorilla
I'll show you how it all
Superman,
fits together, why all
Super
of it
Ape.
matters, while at the same time showing you that while it is technically one big story, you don't have to worry about it.
Oh.
You can just jump in anywhere and you'll be fine. Who's ready for Jimmy Olsen's gorilla wedding?
Yeah. The rich must die. Great.
Now, Superman's origin is pretty well known. Born on Krypton, sent off into space before the planet explodes, lands on Earth where he gets adopted by the Kents. They name him Clark, raise him to be a good guy, to use his powers for good. One of them might then die of a heart attack, or in a car crash, or a tornado, or there's
Yep.
one version where there were bank robbers who were killed in a police
What the
chase.
fuck? What? I've never heard this origin before.
Point is, Clark goes on to make his parents proud,
Oh yeah, I'm gonna quickly say this. Trunks. Trunks till I die.
both as a reporter for the Daily Planet, and of course, as Superman.
Superman.
However, in 1938, when the very first version of Superman was created, all of these concepts and details had yet to be developed. The original version of the story, by Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster, featured a distant, unnamed planet mysteriously destroyed by old age.
Yep.
When Clark arrives on Earth, he is not discovered by his loving foster parents, but instead taken to an orphanage where he scares the living crap out of everyone. In the very next panel, he's all grown up, he can do all this powerful stuff, and boom, he's Superman. This happens in a page. Superman is the champion of the oppressed.
Yep.
When an innocent woman is about to be executed, Superman breaks into the governor's house and demands that she be pardoned. When he
Fucking
catches a guy
base.
beating his wife, Superman gives him a taste of his own medicine. Sometimes he does go a bit too far. When he catches some guys gambling, he's like, if you don't leave the city, I'm gonna end your life with my own hands. Gambling is just as bad as murder. Whatever you say, Superman. This
True.
first story also marks the first appearance of the reporter Lois Lane, who can't stand her awkward, cowardly co-worker Clark. In a
Oh.
typical adventure, Clark will ask Lois out on a date. She says yes because she feels sorry for him. Lois will then end up ditching Clark, leading to her eventual kidnapping, from which she is rescued by Superman. Whoa, Superman! You came out of nowhere! Boy, I sure wish that idiot Clark Kent was more like you. Will you take me out on a date? No. Now, through a modern
Sigma
lens, this
male.
formula is very cliche. The plots are simplistic, with characters saying out loud exactly what they're
Sorry. Shit.
thinking at all times. But you have to remember, this was revolutionary at the time. These guys invented the formula. The style of storytelling
Don't
is simple,
tell.
yeah, but what's wrong with that? It's honest and charming
Mhm.
and oddly comforting, seeing these stories from over 80 years ago dealing with the same issues we have today, trying to give people hope.
Oh yeah, Superman. Next up, Geneva, Switzerland. Holy shit.
In a time where it all seemed like the world was going to end. It's also worth mentioning that while these early stories are very enjoyable, they can also be confusing as hell. Like I said, DC is known for its convoluted, ever-changing continuity, but back in the 30s it was on a whole other level. I mean, they truly did not give a shit. Superman's first adventures are in Cleveland, of all places,
Cleveland.
and then out of nowhere they're like, oh, it was actually Metropolis the whole time.
New York.
minute he works at the Daily Star, then it's the Daily Planet, but it's also sometimes the Daily Star again. Sometimes his boss is George Taylor, then it's Perry White.
Who the fuck is Jerry Taylor?
I mean, hey, it's not like anyone's paying attention. We can change things. It's not like one day it's going to be the most famous comic book to ever exist. Now, a lot of these changes are because of the radio show that was being broadcast at the time. This began not long after the comics did, and so any elements that were introduced in the radio show that stuck, like Krypton for example, they would just add it straight to the comics. Because of this, Superman's abilities quickly evolve from his first appearance. Before, he could just jump really high, but soon he properly takes flight and
Which he stole from Captain Marvel Shazam. Just putting it out there. It's true. Shazam could fly before... Captain Marvel could fly before him.
by the issue 60 mark, he's flying between Earth and Mars in seconds. He gets other powers, such as super shouting. He's able to focus his eyes hypnotically to swiftly and painlessly render people unconscious. He
What? Why doesn't he use that all the
can
time?
also contort his facial features to become identical to another person. Shame he doesn't use that power more, that would have been really helpful down the line. Superman's origin story is fleshed out more, without totally contradicting that first version we got. Turns out Clark was discovered by the Kents after he arrived on Earth, only for them to pass him on to the orphanage, but then they're like, actually we feel bad, can we have him back? And the guys running the orphanage are just so done with this weird baby, they're like, please, take him.
Just that super
After
baby.
raising Clark as their own, the Kents then die before Clark becomes a grown-up, leaving Clark inspired but rather lonely as he goes off into the real world. At the same time, the series' supporting cast grows. We get to
Oh god, Lois Lane, what's going on with your eyes?
meet Jimmy Olsen, the office boy for the Daily Star, or Planet, it depends. Jimmy is a squeaky little shit. The only thing he's good for is doing crossword puzzles, running away, and I hate him. Anyways, for the most part,
Isn't there a chapter about... I love the new... Superman cry. What the fuck?
Superman
Yeah? Yes! Okay. I'm back. Sorry. Wrong one. My alcoholic mother, not really. No, she's fine. She's actually a lovely woman. Me away from this. We are back. Was that gone for that long? Was like, yes, I was. 15 minutes. It looks like. Anyway, yeah, I am subscribed. I should like the video. Rich must die. I forgot about that. That's really good.
Fights regular humans, the corrupt rich, evil gamblers, etc.
Mhm.
But occasionally we get a villain on the more wacky
Mixopitlick. Mixie-sitplick. Mixel-sit-slit-flick. Because it's not Mixopitlick.
side. There's Mr. Mixiospitalik, or as this original version is pronounced, Mixiospitalik, who is
Mixie-tiplick.
a magical, reality-altering being from the fifth dimension,
Like Batmite.
who likes to play practical jokes on Superman and his friends. We have similarly goofy villains such as the Prankster, Toyman, Funny Face, all of whom have these ridiculous plans that never end up working. There is one villain though that I'm sure you've been waiting for. Superman's first ever nemesis, his ultimate foil.
Ultra
and that
Humanite.
is Ultra Humanite, our first proper recurring villain, whose super intelligence is almost a match for Superman's strength. After escaping his first encounter with Superman, Ultra then spends the next bunch of stories.
Oh shit, what the fuck? Sorry about that. I didn't see that. I'll go back a few.
Who is a magical, reality-altering being from the fifth dimension, who likes to play practical jokes on Superman and his friends. We have similarly goofy villains such as the Prankster, Toyman,
Oh, Toyman, he's a pedophile.
Funny Face, all of whom have these ridiculous plans that never end up working. There is one villain though that I'm sure you've been waiting for.
Yep.
Superman's first ever nemesis, his ultimate foil, and that is Ultra Humanite.
Sorry about the noise. This will do. Oh, I did lock the door. I'm such an idiot.
Our first proper recurring
Okay.
villain, whose super intelligence is almost a match for Superman's strength. After escaping his first encounter with Superman, Ultra then spends the next bunch of stories trying to get his revenge and being an overall nuisance. It's actually really fun because you'll be reading an issue, right? Something completely unrelated is happening, and then it's like, oh shit, it's Ultra Humanite! He was behind it all along! It happens so many times in a row that you're almost disappointed when it doesn't end up being him, and when he does eventually die after getting caught in his own blast, it's like, man, I'm gonna miss this guy. We also get this story where Clark is sent to Hollywood on an assignment, and he tries to interview this famous actress. For some reason, this actress is being really weird. Like, one minute she's being really nice, the next she's really cold, and then she quits acting all of a sudden and starts hijacking this yacht full of her fellow celebrities, demanding a $5 million ransom.
Also, let's not forget the top right says anal solution. I know it says final solution, but still. Final solution? That can't be right. This was like 1930, 1940. Used to. Oh, no, it says final edition. What the fuck? Final anal edition. What the fuck?
Clark is obviously confused, and so he goes to investigate, to rescue the people on board, and when he finally gets to confront this actress, he's like, why? What could possibly possess you to do these things? And she's like, it's me, Superman. It's Ultra Humanite! That's right, I survived the blast through sheer adrenaline and mind-swapped myself into this actress's body.
Oh shit.
All to resume my goal of world domination. Oh my god. Sadly for Ultra, he is killed. For real.
Actually, no. Ultra Humanite can be whatever the hell they want to be.
By falling into a volcano.
That's okay
one
with
issue
me.
Later. I kept waiting for him to show up in a story, for him to reveal that he'd faked his death again, but no, he never appears again.
Oh.
Or does he? No, he doesn't. Fortunately, Superman
Yes, he does.
gets a new nemesis, and that is a certain Alexei Luthor. Wait, that's not him, that's just a henchman. This is Alexei Luthor. Luthor is a selfish man, with a great amount of wealth and influence, willing to send entire countries to war so he can pick up the pieces when they're done and assume control.
That's kind feel like the new movie, but no.
After Superman foils his plan to rule the world, Luthor develops this obsession with getting revenge. He's a crafty individual. He uses disguises,
With ginger
brainwashing.
hair.
He forms an alliance with guys like the Prankster and the Toyman. He also kidnaps Lois a bunch. And speaking of Lois, she gets kidnapped so much that you forget she is actually a competent reporter who can think and act for herself. Yeah, she's a damsel in distress a lot of the time, but she's only in that danger because she puts herself out there. She's always chasing scoops, trying to bring criminals to justice.
So, sort of feminist? Not
Her
really.
naivety when it comes to Clark's secret identity is played for laughs, but eventually she does put two and two together and gets real suspicious of Clark. She uses her ambition and her investigative skills to put her theory to the test, and while she never quite gets proof of her suspicions, she remains wary from that point on. As for Clark, while he does have feelings for Lois and wants to tell her the truth, he can't let that compromise his secret identity, the one that his foster parents worked so hard to establish for him. Besides, he's got no time to spend on romance. He's far too busy dealing with this weird, shiny new stone that, for whatever reason, makes him really weak. Clark soon discovers that this stone, which is obviously kryptonite, is a radioactive remnant of Krypton, having crashed on Earth as a meteorite. How does Clark know this? Well, it's because he travels so fast he breaks through the time barrier, following the meteorite back in time to before Krypton exploded. Of course, why not? Not only does Clark discover this advanced civilization of Kryptonians, but he also witnesses his own origin story, watching as his parents, Jor-El and Lara, send him off towards Earth, saving him from the destruction of their planet's unstable uranium core.
Holy
While
shit.
comic readers had already learned about Krypton in a previous issue, this was the first time Clark was made aware of this, since beforehand he thought he was just a really weird human. This opens up the whole Man of Two Worlds theme.
Now I understand why I'm different from Earthmen. I'm not really from Earth at all. I'm from another planet. A planet Jor-El called
Which is
Krypton.
continued a few issues
Wait, Krypton. There we go.
later when Clark, or Kal-El as we now know his birth name, is confronted by three Kryptonian survivors who wish to conquer Earth. They fight Clark with boulders, they duel with trees, and in the end, Clark manages to defeat them using the same scientific formula his dad came up with on Krypton many years ago. This is a good example of that simple style of storytelling being really effective. When Superman just says out loud to himself, "I couldn't have done it without you, Dad. This is your son, Superman, saying thank you. I won't let you down." It's really sweet. It's emotional.
Yeah.
There's such a nice
Nice.
quality to these older comics.
A shame he's a fucking sex pest. Oh, no. No, that's not his guy. No, he wanted a secret harem. I need to rewatch the movie. But, what is date is it today? It's 29th. A few more days till the Naked, Friday comes out. The Naked Gun comes out on Friday. I need to watch that. It's a Liam Neeson and I like the Naked Gun movies. Anyway, and then after that I can watch Superman again. Really want to watch it again.
All of these honest, outward expressions of love and gratitude. It's really cheesy, but that's what makes it so good. Anyways, we get a bunch more adventures, usual kind of stuff, but things eventually switch up when an evil wizard erases the
Glastonbury won.
Superman identity from existence, leaving only Clark Kent, who has no memory of his life as a hero. Without the need to protect his secret identity, because he doesn't have one anymore, Clark drops his act and makes a name for himself as a hands-on reporter who doesn't take any shit. Those evil gamblers poisoning the city with their gambling, Clark shuts them down himself, and slowly the timid image Lois has of him begins to fade. Lois and Clark's random dates develop into something more, a proper romance, and over the course of an entire year without Superman, it blossoms to the point where Clark proposes to her. Jimmy is the best man at the wedding, dickhead. Clark and Lois go on their honeymoon.
I love Jimmy Olsen.
It's
Vizzy Olsen.
uninterrupted bliss. Well, almost.
Wait, what's the 27 minutes, 4K? Okay. That's definitely a video for another stream. An hour long. I can't. I think I should. That's another. Oh, yep. The awkward era of Donkey Kong. Another interesting video, I say. But I wonder.
Lois can't escape her investigative nature, and after attempting to cut her husband's indestructible hair, she eventually gets the proof she's been chasing for years. She also manages to track down the wizard and figures out how to bring Superman back, all on her own. But does she want to bring Superman back? I mean, Clark would never have married her in the normal world. To bring back their old reality would mean snuffing out her own personal paradise. Now, given what we know about Lois, the choice for her is obvious. Her strong willpower and her sense of goodness outweigh any selfish desire she may have, and when the spell is lifted, she fully accepts that the marriage is over. Clark has a different idea though. The Clark that was under that spell was still him. In fact, if it weren't for the spell, he would never have realised just how much he truly loves her. And so instead of letting the marriage go, they renew their vows through a second wedding, a Kryptonian one, surrounded by Clark's own heritage. married life is pretty much the same as before. Plenty of danger, kidnapping, all of that good stuff, but they're at least able to work together without Clark's secret getting between them. Happy couple, happy times, the end.
Lex Luthor becomes bald.
Okay, you know how I said there was a bunch of continuity errors at the start? Well, after a couple decades worth of stories, these inconsistencies and retcons had piled up, and it was a bit of a nightmare if you wanted to treat the comics as this one big continuity. Yep. But then, when The Flash introduced the concept of the multiverse in the
He has a big head, Barry.
60s, it became the solution to these inconsistencies. DC said, okay, we'll keep the newest, most up-to-date versions of the characters in one universe, we'll call it Earth 1, and these older stories, the original versions of these characters, we'll place them on Earth 2. They still exist somewhere. That way, if someone said, this new origin story doesn't match the older one you had, DC could say, well, different universes, mate. That older one was on Earth 2. Now eat this lead. This was great, because with two versions
I need to go back. I completely
origin story doesn't match the older one you had. DC could say, well, different universes, mate. That old one was on Earth too. Now eat this lead. This was great.
Oh, I love this guy.
Because with two versions of Superman, DC could have their cake and eat it too. They could give people what they wanted with Earth 2, right? They could finally allow the original versions of Lois and Clark to get together, get married, settle down. And DC were comfortable doing that because they still had the newer Earth 1 Superman, who stayed in his prime. He still had his secret identity which he kept from Lois. That classic dynamic that readers had gotten used to. From this point on, Earth 1 Superman was the main Superman for the majority of the series, and occasionally they'd have a side story about what old Earth 2 Superman was up to, his married life with Lois. Now, why am I bothering to explain this? Well, because this whole multiverse thing was decided retroactively, and writers had differing opinions on how it all worked at the time, there's no clear point where Earth 2 ends and Earth 1 begins. We know that the very early stuff is Earth 2, and the later stuff from the mid-50s onwards is definitely Earth 1, but that middle area, no one really knows. Fortunately, there is a hero of this story, and that is Mike from the website Mike's Amazing World. Not only did he go through every single issue, but he also did an insane amount of research and analysis, figuring out exactly which story is Earth 2 and which is Earth 1 based on his own criteria, and he did it in the early 2000s, before any DC Wiki, any of that, actually collecting every single issue himself. Sadly, I believe Mike passed away not too long ago, and so I want to take a moment to appreciate him and his website, which was not only super helpful.
1997 has been around, so it's 2017 was the 20th anniversary.
Helpful for this video, but provided an invaluable community resource for decades. Thank you, Mike. One of the main things Mike spoke about when it came to distinguishing the two Earths was Superboy. Unlike the original Earth 2 Clark, who started his superhero career as a grown-up, this newer version of him had been active since he was 8 years old. And so, if there's even a single mention of Superboy anywhere in the story, you know for sure that we're on Earth 1. The Superboy comics take place in the sunny town of Smallville. Elegant homes, friendly neighbours, the perfect place for young, goody-two-shoes Clark Kent to grow up in.
When we mention the time travel.
This is someone who respects his elders, helps the community with their chores, and works hard to give his foster parents presents. These comics let us meet Clark's childhood friends, Pete Ross and Lana Lang. Now, Lana starts off playing the same role as Lois does in the main series, challenging Clark, trying to figure out his identity and outwit him at every turn, but it gets to a point where you're like, Jesus Christ, leave this poor boy alone. Every single issue, Lana tries to prove her theory, and her schemes get more and more ludicrous each time. She tries kryptonite-tainted bananas.
What?
She takes an X-ray vision pill to look through Clark's walls. One time she stamps Superboy's hand with the S symbol in permanent ink, so that when he changes back to Clark, she'll have undeniable evidence of his identity. But then Clark manages to outsmart her by starting a Superboy fan club, stamping every nearby kid with the S symbol so that he won't stand out. As Clark and Lana become teenagers, the tension between them becomes more romantic. Lana gets jealous of Clark, Clark gets jealous of Lana, Clark gets jealous of himself. It's standard secret identity love triangle stuff. Pete, on the other hand, does not have romantic feelings for Clark. This is the 50s after
cringe for Steve.
And unlike Lana, actually ends up finding out Clark's secret. But because he's such a good friend, he never tells anyone, and even helps cover for Clark whenever he needs to rush off anywhere.
What a cool
I think it was writer Grant Morrison who said that what makes the Superman series so relatable is that he just does the same things as us, but on a much grander scale.
Yeah.
And with the Superboy series, it's the same. All of these crazy adventures are really just allegories for these normal childhood things. For example, Clark meets the Legion of Superheroes.
Oh, yeah?
On paper, they're this time-traveling superhero team from the 30th century. There's lots of wild science fiction stuff.
They're
But
the
for
big
Clark,
kids.
they're basically just the cool, slightly older friend group that go to a different school. The kids who Clark can visit on the weekends and do all this cool shit with them.
Never
But he
thought
doesn't
about
want
it
his
like-
friends back home to know about it because
Never thought about the Legion of Superheroes like that, but yeah, that's a great metaphor. And I'm still so mad that for decades they completely removed Superboy from canon when this is such a completely fucked over the Legion of Superheroes.
because they might get jealous, you know? You gotta keep the different friend groups separate. And Lana's wanting to hang with the cool kids. She's always trying to weasel her way in. She does actually manage to do so a couple times when she finds an alien bio ring, allowing her to transform into any insect at will. This produces a variety of images which range from kind of somewhat cool to oh god, ugh. Another example would be
Oh my god! Crypto!
Krypto. When Krypto first arrives in the Superboy comics, he's introduced as Clark's old family pet from Krypton who found his way to Earth. As soon as he arrives, they do all the normal things a boy and his dog would do, just super. Clark takes Krypto for walks, only it's in the sky.
I'm
Instead of
so
chasing a
fat,
ball,
I
Krypto
lose
chases
weight
meteors.
badly.
He's even got his own wee dog friends. This
Bulldog, Paw Pooch, Hot Dog, Chameleon Collie, Tail Terrier, Top Dog, Crypto, Tusky
whole
Husky.
life that his owner doesn't know about. It's great. The unfortunate thing about Krypto is that while he is very loyal and lovable, he's also really annoying. He smashes stuff, puts Clark's secret identity at risk, and so whenever he goes off into space for a bit, Clark's like, I'll miss him, but thank God. Anyways, with great friends, there must also come great enemies. Well, I say great. Most of them are pretty forgettable. There's Kryptonite Kid,
Kryptonite Kid? Is he related to Kryptonite Man?
the Crime Army, a giant
Oh my god!
Super Ape. We do, however, get the iconic villain Bizarro, who's created when Superboy is accidentally struck by a duplicator ray, creating this imperfect
Oh, so he was originally a clone and not like another universe guy.
copy of him. Upon seeing this, Superboy says, "Gosh, that creature is bizarre!" And the copy's like, "Say that again?" The story of
Fuck you.
Bizarro is actually really sad. He tries his best to fit in, but he's just not compatible anywhere, experiencing rejection and heartbreak wherever he goes. Since he can't live with Clark, he just goes to a different farmhouse, smashes through the door, and
Door was locked. Me had to smash it. Hello, me Bizarro. You adopt me. I be your loving son. Oh my goodness, Haram! It's that terrifying creature we heard about in the radio flash before. What will we do? Oh. Maybe more people out here. Me try farmhouse. Me want home like others.
says, "Hello, me Bizarro. You adopt me. I be your loving son." And then he dies. Superboy
What? Fucking.
kills him because he was causing too much trouble, even in
Oh my.
innocently. Clark does try to rationalize it, saying, well, he wasn't technically a living creature. But come on, couldn't you see how much he wanted to live? General Zod is casually introduced
Just General Zod, dictator.
in a flashback. It's almost hilarious just how casually they drop him into the story, because the point of the scene isn't to introduce him, it's to set up the Phantom Zone. The Phantom Zone is a pocket universe once used by the people of Krypton to imprison their criminals.
Dr. Zadu? Zadu?
Oh, and by the way, one of those criminals was this guy called General Zod, but don't worry, he's gone, and won't be relevant for like 30 years. Perhaps the
Oh yeah, because okay, so General Zod wasn't really a character for the Christopher Reeve movies. I know that for a fact. And he was just thrown in there because I don't know. I think Mario Puzo just liked him like Richard Donner did. And since then, he hasn't really done much. He's not really a main character, like big deal.
most important Superboy villain, though, is young Alexis Luthor, an aspiring scientist who originally worshipped Superboy as a hero. The two of them help each other, with Superboy building Lex a state-of-the-art science lab to practice his experiments in.
Oh,
However,
shit.
when one of his experiments goes
Oh,
wrong
yeah.
and catches fire, his whole demeanor changes. Luthor's inside that flaming alcove. I'll extinguish the blaze with a mighty puff of super breath. You rat! Your puff of super breath blew an acid bottle against my antidote bottle.
I wish this was this was in every adaptation. This should be canon always.
They broke, and the gas fumes made my hair fall out. I'm bald, but it was an accident. Don't lie, you were jealous of my genius, so you deliberately broke those bottles. What a tragedy. I'm sorry. Sorry? Will sorry bring back my hair? I hate him. I hate him. How could I ever have worshipped that super rat? Superboy will regret the day he decided to steal the glory of Luthor. So there you have it. Lex, or at least this version of Lex, hates Superman because he made him bald as a kid. Eventually, Clark graduates high school and enrolls in Metropolis University's journalism course, leaving behind his life in Smallville. Lana comes with him for a bit, but soon
Okay.
transfers to a different university. And all of
Bye
a sudden,
bye.
Clark is left to fend for himself in the big scary world. He finds it difficult to make friends, he can't join any sports teams because he keeps breaking stuff, he has no luck with romance either, he even comes
You think he'd learn how to control his powers by that point, but I guess not.
into conflict with one of his professors, who is suspicious of Clark's activities, and becomes convinced that he must be Superboy. After setting up a lie detector test, he asks Clark straight to his face, "Are you Superboy?" To which Clark responds no, and to the professor's surprise, the detector doesn't pick up on anything. See, Clark was technically telling the truth, because moments before that question was asked, he just changed his name in his head from Superboy to Superman, and then he commits to the bit for the rest of his life. While this is a funny way of getting out of a situation, this name change is actually earned if you think about it. Not only is Clark physically older now, and so using the name Superboy
Yeah, he looks like he's in his 40s now.
would just be inaccurate, if anything, but he has matured emotionally in these past few years. His foster parents have sadly passed away by now.
Forgot about that.
That perfect world of his childhood is over. He has to be more independent, he's got to take on more responsibility. He's a man. And the name change reflects that. After graduating university, Clark gets a job at the Daily Planet, working for the tough but fair editor-in-chief Perry White. It is Perry
Where's his white hair?
White this time, for sure. There, he meets Lois Lane, he meets this piece of shit, and from that
No, it's the best.
point on, it's business.
Oh, he's gonna regret that when Darkseid comes up.
Protecting Metropolis, fighting Lex, while still trying to have some fun. I know it's a lot simpler if you just start with Clark as a grown-up. Having all of this Superboy stuff beforehand does scare people a bit, especially since the movies have never dealt with it before. But the Superboy stories are a nice extra layer to the character. Superboy gets to develop his morals in this perfect town and this perfect version of the future, which makes it more impactful when Superman must take these values out into the big bad city. Smallville set him up to be a good person, that was the easy part. But when he leaves that bubble, when he comes across this harsher world that pushes against his
Superman
kindness, that's the
male.
real test of character. Whether he can hold on
Holy shit, people were
to
shooting
these
at him.
values as an adult is what truly determines if he's a good person. Another thing that sets the Earth 1 Superman apart, aside from the whole Superboy thing, is the inclusion of Batman.
Oh yeah, I forgot about Batman, which would never be heard in a DC editorial meeting, like a DC staff meeting. It would just be Batman, 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 Superman, Batman, 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 Green Lantern, Batman, 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 Batman. That's all they fucking talk about.
Superman first meets the Dark Knight through sheer coincidence, when they both end up on the same cruise ship, staying in the same bedroom. Then, when they both try and sneak away to save the day, they spot each other and are like, "Oh shit, you're Superman. You're Batman."
Yep.
Anyways, right from the start, Batman and Superman are the best of friends. They
Yeah, hell yeah.
complement each other. They keep each other's secret identities. They realize that they both look so similar to each other, so Bruce just puts on glasses and pretends to be Clark Kent, and Lois somehow doesn't see through it because she's too busy trying to go on a date with Robin. Wait, what? Honestly, these guys have
What the fuck? Why is Lois Lane dating Robin? What the fuck? She should be in prison.
adventures are so fun. They play practical jokes on each other, they get shrunk down and get hunted by insects. They also get sent 1,000 years back in time, and in order to get back, Superman has Batman stand on this carpet which he carries at light speed, breaking through the time barrier, and when they get back, Batman is still standing on the carpet. People are always trying to power scale Batman, they never talk about that shit. Both Batman
How did he survive?
and Superman are part of the Justice League of America, a
Hell
superhero
yeah.
team which is
Snap a car on the bottom right. And Green Arrow just joins randomly.
a reimagined version of the old Justice Society from Earth 2. Superman is an essential part of the team. He's got his powers, yes, but what's more important is his intelligence, his quick thinking. That's the thing people forget about Superman. Like, yeah, he's really powerful and he's kind too, but he has other traits that often go overlooked. His creativity, his imagination. He's always designing his own gadgets and science experiments. He designs his own robots, each of which can use one of his super
What the fuck? Super Strength, X-Ray Vision, Flying Breath. Oh yeah, Super Breath was really pushed. Where's Super Ventriloquism?
powers to fill in for him when he's unavailable. His sentimentality is a
Wait, I just noticed.
his imagination. He's always designing his own gadgets and science experiments. He designs his own robots.
No heat vision. Heat vision was barely used in the past for some reason.
Each of which can use one of his superpowers to fill in for him when he's unavailable. His sentimentality is a big one as well. By this point, we've gotten our first look at the Fortress of Solitude,
Oh.
Superman's base up in the Arctic, locked away using a giant key that only he can lift. And this place is
I
filled
like
with
that.
all these souvenirs
Good for one crime, Joker.
and tributes to both the past and the present. He has dedicated rooms to both sets of parents. He's got a Batman room.
Of course he fucking does. He's such a fan. Crime probability predictor, electronic clue analysis, lightning fingerprint classifier.
Lois Lane room, a Jimmy Olsen room.
Fucking hell.
All of which contain a wax figure of the person and a present for them, so that if something were to happen to Clark, he'd at least be leaving something behind for each of his loved ones. The great thing about the Fortress of Solitude is that it allows us to see more layers
Oh my god, the Ball City of
to
Canada.
Clark's character.
When are we gonna see that and him getting hit by red kryptonite going to it?
On the outside, he is friendly, extroverted, because that's what he needs to be when he's saving lives. But when he's in the Fortress of Solitude, I mean, it's in the name. Solitude. Superman loves Earth. He's got all the friends in the world, but that doesn't stop him from feeling lonely. At the end of the day, he's one of the only survivors of a dead planet. He can't help but feel different to everyone around him. And so he's got this peaceful place he can go to just be by himself, to soak in his lost culture, to work on all these cool projects. And he's got all of these rooms to remind him that he isn't really alone. He's got people he can go back to when he's ready. Anyway, Superman's fortress comes in handy when the evil Brainiac arrives in a
Oh shit,
flying
Brainiac's here.
saucer. Brainiac's whole deal is that he travels to
yeah,
different
he's
planets
just
and
a
uses
green
his
guy.
hyper ray to shrink down their cities, sealing them
This is just the plot of Lego Batman
in these
3.
glass bottles as part of a twisted collection. When Superman enters Brainiac's ship, he is shocked to discover Kandor, the capital city of Krypton,
This is
stolen years
Kandor's
ago
first
by
appearance.
Brainiac, which is now the last surviving piece of the planet. The tiny people of Kandor help Superman defeat Brainiac, although they are unable to return to normal size. And so Superman takes the Bottle City and brings it to his fortress, a place for safekeeping while he works on finding a way to reverse the shrinking process.
He never
You'd
does.
think he'd find a better place for
Why is Brainiac dressed as Batman?
it, or maybe glue it to something. There's times where it almost falls on the ground and we narrowly miss the deaths of millions of tiny people. As we soon find out though, Kandor isn't the only surviving
Oh shit. His love, true love.
element of Krypton, and Clark meets his cousin Supergirl for the first time. Readers had already met a Supergirl before, when Jimmy Olsen used an ancient totem to wish for a girl version of Superman, only for her to turn out depressed as hell, and then he had to mercy kill her out of existence. Heartless prick. But this time she's actually real, and here to stay. Kara is the daughter of Jor-El's brother, Zor-El, who survived the destruction of Krypton after a large chunk of the exploding
Oh,
planet
shit.
somehow remained intact. While on this chunk, floating through space, Zor-El managed to settle down and have a family, and just over a decade later, the chunk started to meet the same fate as Krypton. In a last-ditch effort to save his teenage daughter, Jor-El sent Kara to Earth, while everyone else on the chunk seemingly died. Superman having a cousin is just a nice idea. Their friendship is really endearing. More importantly, she's the first Kryptonian Clark meets who he doesn't feel like he has to prove himself to. She's someone from his lost culture who thinks what he's doing is really cool, and that's validating for him. Clark welcomes Kara, helps her set up a secret identity. He doesn't, however, let her start her own superhero career, not until she's fully
boo.
trained. Which would seem reasonable if not for the fact that Clark spent his entire teenage life as Superboy. This unfortunately leads to Kara being used as a backup, a secret weapon Clark can use in times of danger. She gets limited recognition for her good deeds, she doesn't have the same luck when it comes to getting adopted, she even gets her own super pet, Streaky, only unlike Crypto, this cat loses his powers half the time and has to be rescued.
Oh, boo! This is poor cat representation.
Kara claims that living in her cousin's shadow doesn't really matter to her, that simply doing the right thing is enough, but it's kind of obvious that feeling like a cheap copy does get under her skin. Speaking of copies though, Bizarro is back, kind of. During one of Lex's attempts to get Superman, he recreates the accident that created the first Bizarro, with hopes of creating a mindless, superpowered slave that will do his bidding. This completely backfires, since the new Bizarro has no interest in being Lex's slave and takes him to jail. Superman seems to have learned his lesson from last time, since instead of killing Bizarro, he lets him go off with a Bizarro Lois, to live a happy life in a faraway solar system.
Aww.
That's what I love about these Silver Age stories. It's a brilliant mix of both heartfelt and just insanely dumb stuff. And for every story about Jimmy Olsen marrying a gorilla, there'll be a genuinely heartbreaking one about love and nostalgia and mortality. And then you're back to the
Lila.
gorilla stuff.
Yeah.
This is a great time for all the characters, especially Lex. Having travelled to another planet in yet another attempt to defeat Superman, Lex comes into contact with the planet's natives. Initially, he helps them for his personal gain, but he soon finds out that he actually likes being cheered on as a hero and using his intellect in service of a community. The planet is renamed Lexor in his honour. He
Lex.
gets married to one of the citizens, a woman named Ardora, and as their child, Lex Luthor Jr. is born, he's thinking maybe there's more to life Earth and trying to kill Superman. This is also a great time for Kara. First, she finds out that her parents are alive, having somehow made their way into the bottle city of Kandor. Then, having proved herself multiple times, Clark decides that it's time for Supergirl to be officially announced to the
Oh,
world
yeah.
and join him as one of Earth's most beloved protectors. It's
Mhm.
just really heartwarming to see her being recognized,
Mhm.
celebrated by
What
the
a
United
super
Nations,
doll.
Atlantis, Kandor, getting her own fan club. This isn't like her development resets in the next story. She continues to prove that she's worthy of this recognition, taking the
Silver Age comic with lasting continuity? That's insane. I never would have thought about that.
initiative when her cousin becomes ill with a Kryptonian virus. She fights tooth and nail to save Clark, performing incredible feats in the process. Funnily enough, it turns out that it wasn't a Kryptonian virus like they thought, but it was actually Jimmy who unknowingly had a bit of kryptonite in his camera the whole time. You... This
Hunt.
next, I want to say decade of Superman's history is pretty wacky yet fairly solid. Batman and Superman continue to have their fair share of
Composite Superman.
stories together. They
I
go
love that guy.
to the jungle, they go to outer space. What an incredible image. By this
Oh, gay for life.
point, Jimmy Olsen has his own comic series. We get a bunch of stories with him seeing
Nightbird and Nightwing. I forgot about that. Yeah.
all of his different superhero identities. He becomes Elastic Lad and manages to defeat Mr. Mxyzptlk. He takes on the deadly crime syndicate, Intergang. Jimmy's comic is actually pretty crazy. Like, it has the first appearance of Darkseid.
Yeah, written by Jack Kirby.
In a Jimmy Olsen comic.
Yeah.
You know, perhaps, Jimmy, I treated you too harshly. As we enter the 70s, though, this silly, unsubtle, sentimental era sadly comes to an end. We say goodbye to this childish world free from rules. It's time for Superman comics to grow up, so to speak. Meaning no more gorilla weddings, no more of that weird stuff. It's time for shit to get real.
Yep. Superman cry. Actually, I need to... Is this where the cover comes
The
from?
70s feature a number of changes to the status quo, with more restraints being placed on Superman's world to
Bonsai.
challenge the creative team. First things first, Kryptonite is written out of the series. That
Wow.
reliable old plot device, gone. Then the Daily Planet is taken over and integrated into a television station.
This was a thing for like decades. Like 15 years or so? Quite wild.
Forcing Clark to become a TV reporter instead of a newspaper journalist. This makes it far more difficult to switch between his two identities at work, since he's constantly being broadcast live in front of millions of people. He's still surrounded by Lois and Jimmy, but he's got a new boss, Morgan Edge. Mr. Edge lacks the tough but fairness of Perry White. He's just tough, really, and the workplace environment becomes a whole lot colder. Edge also hires Steve Lombard, an arrogant ex-football player who belittles Clark at every chance he gets. It's all just jokes, according to Lombard, but everyone else finds him insufferable. At the same time, the series starts deconstructing concepts that were taken for granted during the Silver Age. Superman begins to question himself. He thinks, wait, am I holding humanity back by saving them all the time? Am I having an impact on their progress as a species? What I should actually then do is start helping them be more self-sufficient instead of just solving all their problems. He also finds out that Clark Kent can be just as useful when it comes to solving conflicts. That his ability as a reporter to analyse a situation, to articulate the problems that others are experiencing, has just as much, if not more of an impact on societal issues such as gang violence. Clark's dual identities are seriously examined, when unbeknownst to him, an alien mercenary breaks into his apartment and covers all of his clothes in chemicals that take away his powers. This is all part of an evil plan to psychologically mess with Superman, and it works. Clark is completely powerless whenever he's dressed as a civilian, and he has no idea why. No longer having to act weak to hide his true strength, Clark thinks, you know what? I'm tired of taking shit from Steve. I'm tired of Lois seeing me as a weakling, and my boss pushing me around. And so he puts Steve in his place, he gets with Lois, he stands up to his boss. He starts to enjoy being Clark Kent, experimenting with these traits that he wouldn't have dared to show otherwise.
Sigma male.
Then when he gets too occupied being Clark, he feels guilty, which then leads to him overcorrecting and becoming Superman full-time, and by the time all of this has been solved, Clark has been forced to consider who he really is, the drawbacks of each of his identities, and how to balance the expectations of the world with his own personal needs. I think it's important to keep in mind though that even though things are getting real deep, and the Superman comics are growing up in the way that they're presented, it's not like Watchmen or anything. There's still some silly stuff. There's still some of the things that made the older comics so special. Krypto's still around, albeit with temporary memory loss. Bizarro still has his own planet, which Superman visits from time to time. He's got his own Bizarro Justice League, a Bizarro...
Is that the first Yellow Lantern? I had no idea that the first Yellow Lantern was fucking Bizarro Hal Jordan.
Lex. He's thriving, honestly, and continues to be on good terms with his earthly counterpart.
Okay, is Bizarro an anti-hero? Hmm. I like Bizarro as like sort of this sort of aloof hero.
Superman still retains all of those qualities from the 50s and 60s. He holds on to his kindness and optimism. He's still creative, coming up with all these cool ways to hide his identity and solve problems. He's just as sentimental, not wanting to let go of his parents' old house long after they've passed. When he bumps into Pete Ross after ages of not seeing each other, they look back fondly on their childhoods. They're not like, oh yeah, that was embarrassing. No, they celebrate their memories. Clark also begins a romance with Lois, who continues to be impressed by Clark's new behaviour around the office. They go on dinner dates, in fact that's kind of all they do. It's a lot of dinner. But unfortunately, Clark's duties as Superman keep getting in the way, forcing him to ditch her again and again without explanation. After Lois is almost killed by a bad guy, Clark realizes just how much he loves her, and proposes right there in the hospital. Lois is willing to accept, but on one condition, that Clark comes clean about his double life, that he finally admits that he's
Oh shit. Best comic. Oh, MLJ comics. Own Bullet Man. Oh, oh shit. Yeah.
Superman. And while it's true that Clark loves Lois, he's also incredibly afraid to compromise his identity, this secret he's kept airtight for all these years. And so, once again, he disappoints the woman he loves, and goes on alone. And if Lois and Clark's relationship wasn't rocky enough, Lana Lang shows up, now all grown up, and working alongside Clark as his co-presenter. Almost immediately there's beef between her and Lois, with the two competing for scoops and Superman's attention. The key difference between them though is that Lois genuinely loves Superman as a person. Lana, on the other hand, thinks she's in love with Superman, but really she's more attracted to the idea of being with him. It's that I get what I want attitude she's had since she was a kid. It's about having what someone else wants, or at least that's how Clark sees it. Who knows, maybe Lana will prove him wrong in the future. If the 50s and 60s were about setting these characters up, and the 70s were used for developing them, then the 1980s are a time for closure. Multiple loose threads that have been around for decades at this point finally get their resolutions. Characters complete their arcs, and it's all very satisfying to see. After being stuck in a bottle for over 20 years worth of comics, the city of Kandor is finally liberated. Clark figures out how to reverse the shrinking process with the help of Kara, and the two are celebrated as heroes once Kandor is enlarged. There's a slight hitch when it turns out that Clark's enlarging ray only works on animate objects, so the entire city turns to dust immediately after being enlarged. Oops. But it's not the end of the world. Kandor itself may be destroyed, but its people are now regular size, and are free to go on and rebuild, to forge their own. Own place in the universe. They cannot, however, accept Clark's help. They need to be in charge of their own destiny and learn to live without relying on a superhero to come and save them. Knowing Clark will never accept this, the people of Kandor knock him unconscious and get Kara to take him home. This is an important moment for Clark, of course. This is a guy so sentimental and protective of his culture being forced to let go of it, but it's even more impactful for Kara, I'd say. She doesn't get the luxury of being knocked out. Her parents are still alive with the people of Kandor. She could go and live with them if she tried hard enough. And yet she says, no, I'm not going to abandon the people of Earth or the life I've built for myself there. I'm not going to abandon my cousin either. And she finds this courage to leave her people behind while still managing to put a positive spin on the situation as always. Kara then faces her greatest challenge yet when she fights Darkseid, the godlike tyrant from the planet Apocalypse.
I have to look up first time Superman fought Darkseid. Jimmy Olsen number 134. Oh shit, the great. Oh yeah. Because. Wait, no, he wasn't there.
With the fate of the universe hanging in the balance, Kara confronts Darkseid along with her cousin, even managing to hold her own against him. This is basically Kara's final test,
male
the final thing
chauvinist.
that proves that she can stand next to her cousin as an equal. Her arc is pretty much complete now, but while Kara may be having a great time, there are others that are slightly less fortunate. Bizarro's story comes to a tragic conclusion. When his weird Bizarro planet meets the same fate as Krypton. It sounds sad, and it is, don't get me wrong, rest in peace to a real one, but the way he goes out is just so brilliantly dumb. See, on Bizarro's world, they do the complete opposite of everything. They eat dinner first thing in the morning, cats chase dogs, garbage trucks deliver trash to the houses, and so when the planet's about to explode, Bizarro enacts the complete opposite of Superman's origin story. Instead of sending his baby son up into space so he can be the last survivor, Bizarro fires him directly into the planet's core so he'll be the first casualty. Yeah, we killed our own.
Oh my fucking god! No, 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 that can't be. Oh my fucking god!
Son. And then the planet just fucking explodes, sending Bizarro's head hurtling through space before it crashes on Earth, and he finally dies. On a more positive note, Clark's struggle with his two identities is also somewhat resolved when he meets the Superman of Earth 2,
Oh, yeah.
seeing this older Superman's life and his marriage with Lois.
With
It
the
makes
white
our
hairs.
Earth 1 Superman reconsider his own position. He realizes that he doesn't have to choose between Clark Kent or Superman. Both halves are vital to each other. His personal happiness isn't a luxury or a distraction from his heroics. It's necessary for him to stay sane. A happy Clark Kent will make an even better Superman. And if he wants to be with Lois, then sure, it will mean giving up his secret. He'll have to venture into this uncharted territory, but it will ultimately be worth it. And speaking of meeting your alternate universe self and using that as an opportunity to reevaluate your whole life, Lex also meets his original version. Only for Lex, this is kind of horrifying. With the amount of time we've spent with this Lex, you forget that the older Lex is a different beast. I'm not just talking about the hair. I mean, this guy is bloodthirsty. He's evil for the sake of it, leaving our Lex to be like, I'm actually
Oh shit.
not wanting to kill billions of people. I'm kinda just out to get Superman, like that's my whole thing. Our Lex values life, you know, he's got his own wife and son on the planet Lexor. His big revelation then comes later on, when he realizes that no matter how long he spends with his family, no matter how much he helps the people of Lexor, he will never be truly content. This hatred for Superman is a curse, an itch on the back of his mind that he will drop everything to scratch. And when he goes after Superman once more, it all ends
Oh shit, the power armor.
helps the people of Lexor. He will never be truly content. This hatred for Superman is a curse, an itch on the back of his mind that he will drop everything to scratch.
Yeah, class parasuit. Lawsuit, parasuit, whatever. I much prefer this design over like the much more bulkier modern interpretations of this.
And when he goes after Superman once more, it all ends in disaster. His evil plan
Oh my god. No! What have I done?
backfires as always, and he watches helplessly as his wife, his son, and millions of Lexorians die. His vendetta has doomed his entire planet, and not once does he look inwards. Not once does he think, oh, I'm to blame for this. No, it's all Superman's fault. As it turns out, Lex is doomed to never get his revenge. He'll never see the error of his ways. In spite of Clark's revelation, he'll never get to marry Lois. He'll never get to see if Kandor makes it on their own. And for those of you familiar with the comics, you'll have known this the whole time.
Yep.
That as far back as 1938, time has slowly been running out for all of these characters, all of these worlds. It's been kind of fucked up reading it all through, experiencing all of these joys and dumb adventures and intimate moments and realizations, knowing that it all ends in nothing. That every character, no matter how silly they are, will be utterly annihilated in this upcoming event. Trillions of lives erased. Not killed, erased. Like they never even existed. Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Hard Blue Beetle going.
It's a story about sacrifice. People doing what they can to stop the evil Anti-Monitor from erasing the multiverse, often giving up their own lives in the process. The Supermen of Earth 1 and 2 join forces, along with countless other superheroes, fighting until their last breath for the sake of reality. What's quite shocking when you first read this story is seeing how it treats these characters that have decades worth of history. This is a gigantic event, we've got no pages to waste. Safety. Kara fucking
skip some
for
bits.
the sake of reality. What's quite shocking when you first read this story?
Okay, so I don't know who the woman in yellow is, but there's Earth 1 and 2 Superman, Uncle Sam, Captain Marvel, Blue Beetle, hey. Is that the fucking Spectre? And I think Supergirl is there, and Alexander
Is
Luthor
seeing how it
Jr.
treats these characters that have decades worth of history. This is a gigantic event, we've got no pages to waste. And so a lot of these characters who we've spent so much time with meet their end in just a couple of panels or even off screen sometimes. When the
Is that Superboy? Superboy? Superboy Prime. Oh shit. Was he invented by...
villains from all the universes unites, and the Lex Luthor of Earth 2 is just getting in the way, they're like, fuck this guy, and just disintegrate him. The original version of Lex is just swatted away like it's nothing. When the villains from all the universes unites, and the Lex Luthor of Earth 2 is just getting in the way, they're like, fuck this guy, and just disintegrate him. The original version of Lex is just swatted away like it's nothing. Whole
Dissolved.
universes are wiped out, discarded into the void by the Anti-Monitor, who is just so fucking ultimate, so unbeatable. He wipes the floor with both Supermen, and would easily have won if not for one person standing in his way. Kara. After assuring her cousin's safety, Kara fires towards the Anti-Monitor like a bullet, greatly injuring his physical form. The others warn her off. They say the Anti-Monitor is too strong, it's certain death, but this has never stopped her before. Kara's attack gives everyone else the advantage they need, and she keeps going, buying everyone more time with each punch that she throws. It is a completely selfless act, and she dies in Clark's arms, having given her own life so that the other worlds may have a chance to live. This is the most tragic death in Crisis for me. Like, I know Barry Allen also dies, I know that Earth 2 Superman loses his entire universe, but with each of those guys, there's still a silver lining. Yeah, Barry's death is really messed up, but he still manages to leave behind a legacy. His history still exists in this new version of reality. He's remembered by Wally, who goes on to be the new Flash in Barry's memory. Earth 2 Superman's world is gone, yes, but at the very least, his version of Lois is saved. They get to go off in their own wee pocket reality with the other survivors. It's a somewhat happy ending for the original version of Superman. Kara, though, she doesn't get shit. When the Anti-Monitor is defeated and reality is reset, this fresh new post-crisis universe doesn't have a Kara. It never did. Nobody knows she existed, no one remembers her sacrifice that saved all of them, and so the young hero who fought so hard to be recognised, to leave her mark on the world, ends up forgotten with no proof of her existence. It's miserable. A few years after Crisis, once this new continuity had settled in, DC published this random miniseries called Christmas with the Superheroes. It's a
Oh shit, I know about this. Oh my
collection
god.
of short stories that take place in this new universe, featuring all of these different DC characters remembering the magic of Christmas and all that shit. It's not that special overall, but there is one story featuring the ghost-like superhero Deadman, who's
Boston
rather
Brand.
depressed around this time of year. As his name would suggest, he's a dead man. He's just a spirit. No one can really see him or interact with him properly, no one except these other rare spirits, and so he's always lonely. All of his good deeds will never be recognised. It's a miserable existence. But then this one woman shows up. This is someone who can see him, who's able to talk to him. And she's like, what are you doing? We don't do what we do for rewards or recognition. We do it because it has to be done. Even if no one knows what we've done. Even if no one remembers we ever existed. And this one random conversation with a stranger out in the cold on Christmas Day is enough for Deadman to realise that it's all worth it. He's inspired to keep on going. When the woman takes off, he calls out, asking who she is. And the woman replies, my name is Kara, though I doubt that will mean anything to you. The reason
Why am I fucking crying to this? So fucking good.
I love this moment, aside from it being a really bittersweet end to a nice little Christmas story, is because of what it represents for Superman comics in general. Like with most of the characters pre-Crisis, DC wanted to pretend like Kara didn't exist. As they moved on into this new era, they wanted this fresh, consistent world that took itself seriously. A simpler timeline.
I hate the fact that I'm crying. That.
that didn't have thousands of different characters. Kara wasn't the only casualty of this reset, but she was probably the most famous example. And when Kara's soul appeared a few years later in that one-off Christmas issue, a lot of Superman writers and artists apparently weren't happy. It was messing up their consistency. From that point on, it was only a couple of creators that hit her somewhere in their comics. Keeping Kara's spirit alive. These appearances were so scarce. I mean, they were years, almost decades apart. But it was enough. It was enough to show that there were still people who remembered that old time. That even though that old era of comics was over, it wasn't completely gone. Its essence remained. And
the work of still. I'm a sucker for dedications like this. This is so fucking good.
Need to influence these newer stories.
Superman dies.
Immediately after Crisis, the Superman title is relaunched. This is essentially a reboot in this new, singular, post-Crisis universe, and we get a brand new origin story, along with a whole bunch of changes to the status quo. First off, no more Superboy, right? None of that kiddie shit. Clark first becomes a hero when he's a man, just like it was back in the day. Also, in the previous universe, there were just too many Kryptonians. I mean, how are we supposed to care about the destruction of Superman's home planet when it seems like everyone and their nan survived the explosion? So let's set the record straight. Superman is the sole survivor of Krypton. There's no Supergirl, no Kandor, nothing. We will get to find out about Krypton, but it won't be like before, where Krypton is this amazing place that Clark is very proud of. We're not really wanting to emphasize the whole alien refugee thing. We really want him to be an American first. So when he finds
oh fuck, sorry. Oh. Oh yeah.
With a whole bunch of changes to
Happy Friday, everyone. Why is this in my recommendation? Fuck off.
To the status quo. First off, no more Superboy, right? None of that kiddie shit. Clark where Krypton is this amazing place that Clark is very proud of. We're not really wanting to emphasize the whole alien refugee thing. We really want him to be an American first. So when he finds out about Krypton, he's like, cool, don't really give a shit. Will also limit his powers. He's still got the usual, you know, super strength, flight, all that stuff, but there's no more flying so fast that he breaks the time barrier or some shit. He's not a god. Also, his relationship with Batman? Boring. Too sappy. They didn't hate each other enough. So let's have their first meeting be really tense, and even when they learn to work together, they're not exactly happy about it. Healthy male friendships? Not cool anymore. One of my favourite changes, though, has got to be the inclusion of Jonathan and Martha Kent.
Yeah.
In this timeline, they do not die when Clark is a teenager, but instead live on to support their adopted son as Superman.
I love
this. This pair have not had it easy. Having worked on a farm and lived through wartime, they've seen some messed up shit. They've experienced losses, and it's for that reason that they're such good parents. They know how important kindness is. They know the value of honest, hard work, and they continue to pass that on to Clark well into his adult years. I know that some people are against this, that they prefer at least one of Clark's parents to die before he becomes Superman.
Nah.
It makes that transition from boy to man more meaningful.
Nah, that's cringe. Keep them both alive. It's cool.
And sure, that's true. Counterpoint though, this here, it's just nice. How
Yeah.
could you not think this is nice? What, you want to see old people die? You sick fuck? Also in Smallville is Lana, who in this universe was still Clark's old love interest during their teenage years. Although unlike the previous universe where Lana spent literal decades trying and failing to figure out Clark's secret,
She knows.
this universe has Lana finding out almost immediately after Clark first becomes Superman. Now, while things may seem really different at first, this new universe will slowly be reshaped over time to mirror the old one anyway. Even though the Superboy stuff is thrown out at the beginning, it's eventually reinserted into the timeline, along with Krypto and the Legion and all of the other cool 50s stuff. While Batman and Superman don't like each other at first, they will eventually learn to trust each other and become best pals, with Clark even giving Bruce a kryptonite ring because he trusts him so much. And so despite all of the reboots and retcons, these core elements are inevitable, and it is a joy to watch them find their...
That's Countdown, because that's Action Man from Countdown. Countdown to Final Crisis.
way back in real time. Also, the villains we had before
The super dark crypto.
Guys like
The
Bizarro
super
or
dark.
Parasites, Metallo, Intergang, they've got the same core
Yeah.
elements.
Oh yeah, Metallo. He's so fucking
Just been
cool.
changed slightly to make them fit into this more serious, introspective
Oh
era of
shit.
comics. When Mr. Mxyzptlk arrives in this new universe, you'll recognize that he is a bit more sadistic with his schemes, turning people into
Oh.
nightmarish creatures and creating these weird magic torture chambers. I've always seen Mxyzptlk as a representative of the creative team. He's this insanely powerful, reality-altering being who's just there to mess with Superman, to have fun and create conflict for the sake of it. And so it makes sense that now he's just here to be cruel to everyone. It's very representative of this new era. Brainiac is reimagined as an unhinged circus entertainer with psychic powers, who believes he is
Wait, what? No, I hate this.
being possessed by the consciousness of a dead alien scientist. This is a method you see all the time in comics whenever they're trying to take themselves more seriously.
Yep.
They did the same thing with Thor in the Ultimate Marvel Universe, taking their traditional backstory and turning it into a fantasy, a delusion by some crazy guy who only thinks he's from Asgard and is the god of thunder. And then years later, when they've worked up the courage to commit to the classic, sillier version, they can just say, oh, he wasn't actually crazy. That shit was real the whole time, and it's exactly what happens with Brainiac later on. I'd say Lex is the most different on paper, but at his core, he's still the same old hate.
Amanda. What's Amanda Waller supposed to be?
That we all love. Unlike the old Lex, who was more of a mad scientist type, this version, Alexander Luthor, is a ruthless businessman. He's the kind of guy to smoke a cigar while he crashes the stock market on purpose. He has a burning desire.
Oh shit! Lex Luthor caused the, was it 1987 Wall Street crash, wasn't it? Yeah, he caused the 87 Wall Street
For
crash.
control. He wants to take over Metropolis, not through some crazy science experiment, but through aggressive business strategy, taking over every company in the city and folding them into LexCorp. He's still a genius, managing to outsmart people way more powerful than him, such as Superman and Mr. Mxyzptlk. And we also get to see other aspects of his life that we've never quite seen before. We get to see him take a shower.
Oh, also he's fat? When did he lose all that
Daily
weight?
Planet is also going strong. You've still got Lois being a damn good reporter, running circles around supervillains, the military, whoever she needs in order to get the scoop. Jimmy's also quite competent, helping to investigate using his
I'm
wits
really
and his
enjoying
charm.
this.
And while his youth can be used to his advantage when he's investigating
Oh.
and being underestimated by bad guys, he is kind of sick of being treated like a kid all the time. Even Superman, who he considers his best friend in the whole universe, underestimates him, treats him like a child, and he's starting not to put up with that anymore. Overall, the planet is pretty much the same. It's just a slightly different atmosphere. For example, we get a newcomer, the gossip columnist Cat Grant, who is quite flirty. She doesn't really care for boundaries. She quite literally falls for Clark and Jimmy. She'll fall for pretty much anyone. And back in the day, you had these cute love triangles, and romance was just this silly thing sprinkled in for comedic purposes. But this isn't the case anymore. This is the 1980s, son. We've got workplace harassment in our comics now. And so when Cat throws herself at Clark in front of Lois, it doesn't start a light-hearted rivalry where they have to compete for Clark's attention. It just creates an uncomfortable work environment. Perry sits Cat down and is just like, what are you doing? We're all professionals here, like, focus on your job. And also, I know you're an alcoholic, because again, this is the 1980s. We can put alcoholism in our comics now. Speaking of newcomers though, this universe has produced another new character, this time by the name name of Bibbo Bobowski. Bibbo is just a guy. He's a citizen of Metropolis who can always be found inside his bar.
What
And
the
he's quite rough, he isn't the brightest, but boy does he have a heart of gold. He will help Superman out whenever he can. Superman will bump into him and he'll be like, "Hey, how you doing, Superman? You're always welcome in my bar, Superman. I'm not sure about this Jimmy kid though." Anyways, if you couldn't already tell from some of the images on screen so far, this era, while it does have its happy highlights, is quite dark in tone. Arguably even darker than the 70s era and far, far removed from the sanitized, happy-go-lucky adventures of the past. Clark is not having a good time, and it's not just Lex's constant attempts to kill him, or Brainiac making him lose his mind. That doesn't help, but his true breaking point arrives with General Zod, who, along with his fellow Kryptonian criminals, has wiped out billions of people on another world. And when he threatens to kill billions more on Earth, when he says, "What are you gonna do to stop us, Superman? Are you gonna do a big punch?" Superman snaps and says, "No, I'm gonna kill you." Given the blood on the evil Kryptonians' hands,
Oh,
Superman
shit.
makes the conscious decision to kill them with kryptonite before they can cause any more Kryptonian criminals, has wiped out billions of people on another world. And when he threatens to kill billions more on Earth, when he says, "What are you gonna do to stop us, Superman? Are you gonna do a big punch?" Superman snaps and says, "No, I'm gonna kill you." Given the blood on the evil Kryptonians' hands, Superman makes the conscious decision to kill them with kryptonite before they can
Holy
cause any
shit.
more harm. This is not a decision that's made lightly, and it really does a number on Clark's conscience. Sure, time was running out, and by killing them, he was ensuring the safety of his whole universe. And also, these guys already did kill like 5 billion people. I mean, if anyone deserves to die, like, you know, come on.
Yeah, to be fair, they deserved it.
But that doesn't mean that Clark was happy to do it. That's not what Superman stands for. He's supposed to find another way, and the fact that he couldn't do that in time haunts him. In response, Clark exiles himself from Earth, spending a bunch of issues floating through space before finally stumbling across Warworld, a gladiator-type hellscape ruled by the alien dictator
Mongo.
Here is the perfect place for Clark to face his demons. He must find a way to avoid killing in a world where killing
the
is
fuck
not
is
only deemed
weird?
necessary, but is valued, honored. And when his exile is complete, he returns to Earth, still jaded, but feeling a little bit better than when he left. Jimmy is also going through it. His elastic powers are reintroduced, like the ones from the 50s, but this time it doesn't make him a quirky superhero. It's just painful and freakish, making him desperate to
Oh,
get rid of it.
shit.
And not even good old Perry White can escape the misery, as he's just found out that his wife had an affair with Lex, and that his son, Perry White Jr., isn't his, he's Lex's. And then immediately after this, Perry White Jr. dies,
Oh my
leaving
God.
Perry Sr. devastated. Then, Lex discovers that his kryptonite ring, the one he's been using to defeat Superman, has given him terminal cancer.
Oh,
But before that can kill him, he dies brutally in a fiery plane wreck. So much death, oh my god. Despite all this, it's not all pain and suffering. There is some light in the form of Lois and Clark's relationship. I've always seen some people say that Clark should be paired up with Wonder Woman.
No,
but
fuck
they're
off. Kill yourself if you think that. Like, alright, Ron. Okay, no, not really. But still, like, shut up
match
and
for each other,
die.
and that has happened a few times in the comics.
I hate
But
it.
really, like if he's gonna be with another superhero, it's gonna be Batman.
Yeah. Yeah, make them
Right?
kiss.
But that aside, come on. It's Lois. It's always going to be Lois. Lois is strong-willed and witty and doesn't let anyone push her around. She stands for truth and justice and a lot of the same stuff as Superman, except she doesn't have any powers. It takes immense bravery to do the kind of stuff that she does, charging into danger when she's not bulletproof, she's not able to fly away. And that's probably why Clark respects her so much. Underneath that tough-as-nails exterior, Lois is a kind and caring person. She cares deeply for Clark while also remaining competitive with him at their jobs. After a long time working together, Clark takes her to dinner, they get closer together, and at this moment you're like, here we go. It's gonna be like the last universe, he's gonna propose to her, but then his secret's gonna get in the way, and then it's gonna teach him a lesson about responsibility or some shit. But no! She accepts the proposal. Clark then realizes that it's probably not the best idea to be hiding this double life from his future wife, and so he works up the courage to reveal his secret to her. This is genuinely a serious moment, like I don't want to take away from that, but I find it so funny how he just takes off his glasses, and she's like, whoa, oh my god, how could this be? To Clark's surprise, the world doesn't end after Lois finds out. Believe it or not, Lois is very much capable of keeping this secret, and the
Oh, hell
relationship
yeah.
doesn't crumble because of it. Now, by this point, we've reached the 90s, and we are due for the big blockbuster event I'm sure a lot of you have been waiting for. Shortly after revealing his identity to Lois, Clark is stopped in his tracks by a mysterious, powerful creature, wreaking havoc wherever it goes and tearing right through the Justice
Blue
League.
Beetle!
When Superman
No.
arrives to help the League,
Booster
he says,
Gold! Booster Gold!
I hear you people are having some trouble. Trouble isn't the word, Superman. I'm telling you right now. It's like Doomsday is here. Say that again. Doomsday is the complete
Fuck
opposite
off.
of Superman. Superman was raised to be kind. It's the nurture from his parents that makes him act the way he does. Doomsday acts on pure impulse. He's a cruel force of nature filled with mindless rage. He cannot be reasoned with, he has no weaknesses, he will keep killing and killing until there is no one left. And as much as Clark tries to take him down, it's just no use. Everyone witnesses Clark's last stand, whether it's Lois and Jimmy watching from a few feet away, or his parents at home watching the TV helplessly. And Clark fights, and he finally manages to destroy Doomsday before dying himself. Now, it's no surprise that a story called Death of Superman has Superman die in it. The actual death isn't what's important here. I mean, we already know it's going to get reversed later on. What really matters then is the effect that it has on everyone else in the world. All the heroes get together to pay tribute to their fallen friend.
This was, I think, just before Green Lantern went evil. Like a year or so beforehand. Must have been. Emerald Twilight was like 93. Oh yeah, I forgot. Okay, so all the way in the top right, you see a guy with red hair, red beard. I think that's Lex Luthor. He's like faked his. He's gonna go over that. Oh yeah. Well, all four Green Lanterns are there. Cool. Is that Gentleman Ghost? That's cool. Okay. There's Flash, both Flashes, Elongator Man, who isn't using his powers, he's respectful. There's Batman. Nightwing's there, but not Batman?
With Batman reflecting on how Superman was the man he respected the most.
Wait, what? Robin carried? Tim Drake carried Superman's coffin? What the fuck? Wait, Darkseid was at Superman's funeral. One of the Legion of Superheroes, what? What the fuck, dude? Oh,
Everyone at the Daily Planet takes the news hard, but they fight for Superman's integrity, standing up to other news outlets that wish to exploit his death. Jimmy refuses to sell the pictures of his friend's dying moments,
Oh,
as they mean more to him than any sum of money ever will. Like I said, you know Superman's coming back, but after a certain point you start to forget it because of just how many
Oh, fuck, that's a fuck. Sorry, that's a fucked. I couldn't find this, but I, that's. Oh shit, that is.
emotional moments there are. Jonathan's heart nearly gives out, and he starts hallucinating Clark's journey to heaven, begging the universe to take him instead of his son. Lois says her goodbyes at Clark's coffin, with the memory of the proposal still fresh in her mind. We get to see the people of Metropolis talking about how Superman impacted their lives and how he continues to inspire them after he's gone.
Yeah.
Clark stays dead for quite a bit, and in his absence, another Superman takes his place. Well, four
Four.
of them, actually. There's Superboy, Eradicator, Steel, and Cyborg
My
Superman.
goat. My
All of
goat.
whom mysteriously appear after the real Superman's death, and as the story goes on, we learn more about them and where they come from. Superboy is created by Project Cadmus. He's genetically engineered as a replacement for Superman in the event of his death. If we were to rank these four Supermen, Superboy would probably be mid-tier. While he means well, he's nowhere near as honorable as Clark was.
Yeah.
He's easily agitated.
He becomes a much better person as time goes on.
And civilians end up dying under his watch.
Oh.
It's clear from his actions that he has a long way to go. Eradicator's origins are found in an ancient Kryptonian weapon that Clark picked up back when he was in exile. This weapon was so advanced that it developed a mind of its own, and having created a body for itself using Superman as a genetic template, it genuinely believes itself to be super for a bit.
Oh Jesus, that's some bad audio.
Eradicator, as his name would suggest, is dead set on eradicating evil, only he has no problem straight up killing people to achieve this goal. Since he's essentially an AI, he is incredibly intelligent, capable of processing information at light speed.
It has no
Yet,
cue.
he doesn't know what a high five is. Instant F tier. Steel is probably the best out of the bunch. He's the only one not claiming to be Superman or trying to replace him. He's just wanting to do his own thing and help out wherever he can. Having been saved by Superman in the past, Steel, otherwise known as John Henry Irons, is inspired to make himself a set of power armor, jet boots, and a giant-ass hammer. Steel is a lot more responsible than the other two. He seems to have a proper understanding of what Superman means, helping to keep Superman's spirit alive in a city that is falling apart without him. He is completely self-made, insanely intelligent, and for that reason, he's going in A tier. Cyborg Superman, on the other hand, he belongs in not even F tier. He's in the negative zone. He's got his own tragic backstory. He's a former astronaut who blames Superman for this tragic accident that ruined his life, blah 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 blah. Turns himself into a cyborg and then realizes he can't get revenge on Superman because he's dead. And so the only thing that he can come up with is trying to ruin Superman's legacy by first convincing the world that he's the real Superman and then doing a bunch of evil shit straight after. He does kill millions of people, and that's bad, obviously. But I feel like his biggest crime, to me at least, is that he's just, I don't know, he's just trying too hard. Look at him. He's having these over-the-top monologues
I love him though because he's so evil.
in the rain, saying, "Oh, my memory, so much of it is gone. There are snippets I remember, voices and faces that last for milliseconds." Shut the fuck up, man. Shut up. Despite how much the others may try, there's just no replacing the real Superman, and soon it is time for him to make his return. Superman was dead, like for real, but he's able to come back to life through 3 important, miraculous factors. The first is Eradicator, whose main purpose as a Kryptonian creation is to protect the ultimate integrity of Kryptonian life. And so when Superman dies, Eradicator is compelled to do whatever he can to revive him. The second is the Fortress of Solitude, which contains the Kryptonian healing baths that Eradicator places Superman's body in. However, neither the technologies of the Fortress nor Eradicator's powers are enough to fully resurrect Superman. There is one last factor, and that is Jonathan Kent. We've seen before with Kara that there is some form of afterlife in the DC universe.
Yeah.
That even after they die, even after they're erased from existence, their spirit, their essence lingers somewhere. And so when Jonathan has that vision of Clark, I like to interpret
I need to pee real quick. I'll be right back. And we're back. Okay. Oh wait. Alright.
That literally. Jonathan is literally fighting for his son's soul, managing to bring Clark's spirit back to his body on Earth out of pure love. These three factors, Eradicator, the Fortress, and fatherly love, are enough to enable Clark's return, and he does so in spectacular fashion. Right from the first moment you see him, you just know that everything's gonna be okay. He is comforting, he takes control of the situation, and teams up with Steel and Superboy to destroy Cyborg Superman. After Cyborg Superman's been sorted, Clark goes home of pure love. These three factors, Eradicator, the Fortress, and fatherly love, are enough to enable Clark's return, and he does so in spectacular fashion. Right from the first moment you see him, you just know that everything's gonna be okay. He is comforting, he takes control of the situation, and teams up with Steel and Superboy to destroy Cyborg Superman. After Cyborg Superman's been sorted, Clark goes home, takes a shower, gives Lois a big kiss, he reunites with his parents,
Yay.
reunites with the Justice League, he makes up a story about why Clark Kent was missing this whole time, he then realizes that his apartment is no longer his since he's been missing, and so he moves in with Jimmy. Jimmy takes a shower, then Doomsday comes back to life, starts picking a fight with Darkseid, and so
What the fuck? I forgot. I didn't realize that, dude.
Superman and Darkseid become temporary allies to defeat their common enemy. Cyborg Superman also comes back with a new form, thinking he's still relevant. This ain't about you, bro. Shut your mouth. Superman then uses what he learned from his previous fight with Doomsday to get the upper hand.
Oh,
and
hi,
he and his new
Wave
squad
Rider.
then send Doomsday forward in time to the end of the universe, finally defeating him for good this time. Jesus. Superman is well and truly back. He's revitalized. Never felt better in his life. And, as you'll recall, he's got a proposal to keep. Now, Lois and Clark's wedding almost doesn't happen for a number of reasons. First, the relationship gets kinda rocky due to Clark spending more and more time as Superman and not enough as Clark Kent with his fiancée. Lois knows that she can't stop Clark from saving lives. That would be totally unfair. So it's just kind of a shitty situation they can't really do anything about. Then we get a story where, in order to save Lois's life from a deadly poison, Clark must kill the Joker to get the antidote. This is one of Joker's twisted schemes to get Clark
What
to
the
break his moral code.
Are we gonna just... We're just gonna go past Joker's
And
face.
it ends up failing when Clark chooses to let the Joker live. Now, this is an understandable choice in the moment, and Lois wasn't gonna die anyway, Joker was just messing with them. But when Clark reunites with Lois in the end, she's a bit hacked off. She's like, wait, you were gonna let me die? To top things off, Lois gets annoyed by Lori Lemaris, a mermaid from Atlantis and one of Clark's past love interests, who ends up having to crash in Lois's apartment. Now, Lois knows that Clark isn't going to cheat with Lori or anything, but it's just one more thing to add to the pile. One more bit of stress on their relationship. They call off the engagement for a bit, spending some time apart, giving themselves time to breathe,
Fair
before
enough.
finally deciding that they can actually make this work. They do love each other and they still want to get married. Finally!
Fucking finally, we're almost an hour in, and they're finally
Marriage
married.
takes place in a special one-shot issue with an all-white cover. Most of the story is spent on both sets of family and friends as they prepare for the big day. My favourite moment has got to be when Clark and Bruce are up on a roof together talking about the upcoming wedding, and Bruce lets Clark know that he doesn't have to worry when going off on his honeymoon because he's got all of these other heroes to fill in for him when he's gone. Bruce also offers a nice apartment that he owns for Lois and Clark to move into when they come back, and oh, my boys are back. It's just like the old days.
Yeah, he's his landlord. I forgot.
Mxyzptlk shows up right before the wedding, and this is another good example of him being a representation of the writers. He's like, should I spoil your big day? Should I add some drama? You know what? Nah, I'll let you have this one. I know better than to intervene, but rest assured, your married life will be filled with conflict. Anyways, Lois and Clark get married, and it's just such a nice, peaceful moment that isn't interrupted by a crazy supervillain or anything. Even Lois's asshole dad shows up and gets along with everyone. It's a joy.
Lewis? Let me raise up the vacuum. Oh yeah, I forgot.
Joyful time. Well, for everyone except Perry, since he is not only still mourning his son, but he's also been told that he now has cancer. Oh god. Just before we enter the 2000s though, let's do a quick check on all of our characters, shall we? Clark is happily married to Lois,
Yep.
with them both going on their honeymoon. Lana, having accepted that she'll never get to be with Clark, has gotten married to Pete Ross.
Fair
The
enough.
two have a son together,
Oh.
called Clark.
Oh.
Lana claims that she named her son after Clark's mother, whose full name is Martha Clark Kent. So really it has nothing to do with Clark at all. She's not in love with him anymore. What are you talking about? The Daily Planet is still around as always. Jimmy's got his own relationships going on. He's on and off with Lucy Lane, Lois's younger sister. And he also gets involved with the former criminal, Misa, but that never really goes anywhere. Kat Grant is horrified to learn that her young son has been killed.
Oh,
by poison.
shit.
Bit of a downer. And Perry is pleased to find out that his cancer is in remission. Only for the planet to be bought out, costing him his job. Damn it. Bibbo has been following in Superman's footsteps. He's got his own superhero career going on, calling himself Super Dude and putting his life in danger to rescue innocent people. The same goes for Superboy, who is still a bit reckless, he's still a bit cheeky, but he eventually proves that he has what it takes to be part of the Superman family and is made an honorary Kryptonian by Clark, who gives him the name Con-El, or Connor Kent when he's amongst civilians. The 90s are a bit of a mixed bag for me. You'll get storylines such as Superman Red, Superman Blue, where Superman is split into two forms. One of them is red, and the other one is blue. And that's all you really need to know. It was the 90s. Shit like this just happened. It looks pretty cool, I guess. They did the same thing 40 years prior, and it was way better. You'll get some good stuff. I love the Superboy series with Connor, and Grant Morrison's JLA series is also great, fleshing out Superman's relationship with the Justice League, and also just having a bunch of really cool stuff in it. It does help to know about the whole Superman red-blue thing before you read JLA, seeing as they were happening at the same time.
Oh, yeah.
Superman does just show up one issue, and he's like, yeah, I'm blue now. Doesn't elaborate. We also get that one panel from the JLA one-shots I'm sure you've seen before, where the Justice League pulls up on Lex, who promptly shits himself. What a lot of you probably won't know, however, is that this isn't the main universe Lex. This is an alternate reality. No, our Lex has been pretty busy the past few years. You'll remember that he supposedly died in a plane crash a while ago. Well, to no one's surprise, that was a fake out. What actually happened was that he faked his death while secretly transferring his mind into a younger, cancer-free Australian clone of himself. In this new body, he
Wait, why Australian? Why?
publicly claims
Oh, why the red hair and mutton chops? Like, mutton chops connected to the chin.
to be his own son, Lex.
Like a Jewish beard.
The second, allowing him to run LexCorp as usual and enjoy having a full head of hair. Then, after Lois exposed him for being a clone, he made a deal with the devil, selling his soul to get his original body back.
What the fuck?
So we're back to normal, basically. Lex
Why does he have red eyebrows? Does Lex Luthor dye his eyebrows? A very art style
is
thing.
obsessed with killing Superman. He's so manipulative and calculating that he doesn't know how to be an actual person. He still has emotions, he still cares about things like glory and admiration, but the way those desires manifest is just so messed up. The biggest example of this is probably the birth of his daughter, Lena. The moment that Lena is born, he locks up
Wait, Lena Luthor isn't like a Robot Chicken original character? Holy shit.
her mother and throws away the key, saying that no one is allowed to compete for his daughter's affection.
What the fuck?
It's not like he's a good father, either. I mean, he does seem to care for Lena at first, and claims he'll do anything for her, but that all goes out the window as soon as it's convenient for him. He ends up sacrificing her to Brainiac in exchange for this new technology. Because having this advantage over Superman, and this control over Metropolis, means more to him than his own flesh and blood. Well, I can always make another one, he says. Asshole. Soon, Lex begins a new quest for control, leaving his company behind and setting his sights on something greater, something with even more power. He appoints Talia al Ghul as the new CEO of LexCorp and starts running for President of the United States.
Oh, yeah.
Now, you might ask, how does a man like Lex Luthor become president? Hasn't he tried to kill everyone a bunch of times? And that's what the American people would be saying if not for Lex's insanely effective PR strategy that either overlooks or reframes all of his crimes. Lex is just a guy who loves America. He wants what's best for the American people. Even after Lois Lane and the
Holy
rest of the
shit.
media came after him with these lies, he managed to overcome it. The truth prevailed.
No
Even
fucking
after
way.
he lost his poor daughter in the Brainiac invasion, he kept going, kept fighting for America. And through this campaign, Lex creates an army of die-hard supporters that win him the election, alongside his vice president, Pete Ross. Now, you also
What?
might ask, how does a man like Pete Ross end up working for Lex? Like, I know in this universe, Pete's not the one who knows Clark's secret, it's Lana. But still, what the fuck, Pete? Lana does explain later on, saying how, yes, Lex is evil, but they can't stop him from being president. He's made sure of that. So maybe, with someone like Pete at his side, it won't be as bad. And maybe, if something were to happen to Lex, her husband, an honest, decent man, will get
Did I briefly oh. That commie Superman. That's basically how he ran.
to become president and fix everything that Lex put wrong.
Fuck. Ah, fuck. I fucked this up.
Man will get to become
There we go.
president and fix everything that Lex put
Mhm.
wrong. At the turn of the millennium, Clark and Lois must adjust to Lex Luthor's America. They must continue to fight for truth and justice, while Lex uses all of the country's resources against them and even works to remove the 22nd Amendment so he can stay in power forever. They've also got to deal with
Holy shit.
Lois's asshole dad saying things like, "Oh, it's about time we had a real president. Why are you here? No one likes you."
Wow.
This is a darker time, not just because of Lex's presidency, but for comics in general. Superhero stories had already been pretty edgy in the 80s and 90s. Everything was trying to be like Watchmen, I guess. But then the early 2000s came along and turned the edginess up to 11. And
Post
so
9/11 crap.
Superman had to prove that his way of doing things
Oh
was
shit.
kindness. It
Oh shit. We're doing this. We're doing the best Superman
was
comic.
still relevant in this new era. This brutality, this pessimism, as Superman says, it's loser behavior. Maybe Superman's living in a dream. Maybe his idea of a kind and honorable world is just unrealistic. Or maybe dreams are exactly what we need. Superman can be the impossible dream that we're constantly chasing. And while we'll never quite get there, we can get
Wait, did they
the idea
call
of
him a
kind and
Jew?
honorable world is just unrealistic. Or maybe
Jaw. Sorry, my brain can't go all the way into Western Europe. Jaw. Imperiex. Suicide. What the fuck?
dreams are exactly what we need. Superman can be the impossible dream that we're constantly chasing, and while we'll never quite get there, we can get pretty close, making reality a little bit better with each action we take. And that's a lot more helpful than all this spiteful, realistic shit. As it turns out, Clark is proven right. Things do get better. And when everyone unites, they manage to expose Lex for who he really is, losing him the presidency. Talia, being close to Bruce, has secretly drained LexCorp of all of its assets, leaving Lex completely broke and humiliated. He goes into hiding, Pete Ross becomes president, Hope has finally returned to the country, and all is right with the world. It's no coincidence that around this time, a familiar face returns from non-existence. The face of kindness and youthful freedom and whimsical optimism. Kara's soul is reincarnated into a new version, and she is
Coding overload? What the fuck?
reintroduced more or less in the same way as before. It's just that her arrival on Earth is a lot less smooth. This universe isn't as pure or as friendly as Earth 1 was. It's quite awkward and upsetting, and
Right. Any just lower the bitrate in this video and I'll be.
she can't settle down without immediately being hunted and corrupted by evil. Fortunately, this doesn't last long, and Kara eventually becomes Supergirl. Unlike the previous version, who took ages to earn her independence, this Kara has autonomy pretty much from the start. While Clark is overprotective at first, he soon backs down and lets her decide her own path. She gets to choose her own civilian name, her own life, and fights alongside Clark as part of the Superman family. I do think they left it a little late in introducing her though. Her
Yeah.
showing up when Clark's a married man who's already had years and years to think about his heritage and his place in the universe. It feels a bit tacked on, rather than her being an essential part of his formative years as Superman. It's less of, finally, another Kryptonian, this family member who accepts me for who I am and knows all about this culture I've been dreaming of. And more of like, oh cool, another Kryptonian. I've got a cousin. Well, that's nice. Overall, I can't really complain though. Better late than never. We've got Kara back, we've got Connor as Superboy, hanging out in Smallville, playing with Krypto. More and more of the stuff that was erased is finally finding its way back. It's just in a different form that's better suited to the 21st century. Let's be real, the pre-crisis world, it was just better. It was more fun, it was more pure. The grass was greener and the people were friendlier. It was way better than this dark world where everyone hates each other, right? Right?
Oh shit! Infinite.
2 Superman, the original Superman, has been watching our heroes from his pocket universe ever since Crisis ended, and he's not exactly happy about how this new universe has turned out. It was alright at first, he admits, it was full of potential, but after a while, things started to go wrong, like a darkness spreading, leaving no life untouched. Heroes were broken, corrupted, or even killed. This darkness was everywhere, and it eventually reached the pocket dimension, threatening the safety of the pre-crisis survivors. What's more, the original Lois has fallen ill, which her husband attributes to this darkness, and she'll continue to get weaker and weaker until they do something. It's up for debate whether this is actually true. Maybe Lois is just fucking 104 years old and Clark can't accept that, but to OG Clark, his mission is clear. In order to save his Lois and put the universe back to how it belonged, Earth 2 must return. Now this Clark gets what he wants in the end. Through some insane plan which I won't get into now, they manage to restore Earth 2. The Daily Star comes back. It all seems like they're gonna live happily ever after. But this perfect world, it doesn't really exist. You can't just treat reality like a jigsaw, only piecing together the good parts. For every great thing about pre-crisis, there was some dumb shit that made no sense. Really, we've got to move on. And after losing his version of Lois, the original Clark realizes that he's made a terrible mistake. You see, Superboy Prime, one of the other survivors of the pre-crisis multiverse, is dead set on what he thinks the DC universe should look like. He says, fuck this new stuff, fuck Earth 2 as well, we're gonna do what I want. We're gonna restore my version of the past.
Heroes who are
And I don't
brave, honest, and no one will ever know it.
care if I have to wipe away these existing characters and storylines. I don't care.
Hi,
if that
Dr.
makes me
Savannah.
angry. It's this very narrow idea of the DC canon that proves to be dangerous. Because as it turns out, the past and the present can work together. We can honor what came before without being tied down by it. And when the original Superman teams up with the newest version, they're able to stop Superboy Prime from destroying everything. The day is saved, reality is protected, but this victory doesn't come without a cost. The original Superman, having taken the brunt of Superboy Prime's attacks, sadly succumbs to his injuries, thinking of his Lois one last time before joining her and their universe in the afterlife. The past may be gone, it's all very sad, but it will never be forgotten. The past fuels the progress of the future, and as these newer versions of the characters move forward, they're inspired by the older ones to make this universe a little friendlier, a little brighter. The era immediately after this is one of my favourites. It takes the message of Infinite Crisis and actually does something with it. More elements from the pre-crisis universe are added, bringing the series closer to the good old days while still being distinctly modern and respecting the more recent continuity. Lex is more of a mad scientist again, forming alliances with the Toyman and the Prankster and the Superman Revenge Squad. Kara's now roaming around, stepping up for Clark when he's unavailable. Steve's finally back at the planet, being an asshole to everyone once more. In particular, his co-worker Ron, God, they do not like each other.
Ooh.
Perry's got his job back. He's running business as usual. I mean, soon he'll be caught in an explosion that nearly claims his life, but
Oops.
we'll focus on the good things now. I love this era so much. Just seeing Clark being so in tune with his city, being so in love with its people and its culture, contributing to society, just being a really dependable journalist, fighting against guys like Lex and Intergang with the
That's a real photo they took.
power of the press. He gets to spend more time with Lois and Jimmy and gets to eat his favorite pretzels. All of his colleagues are constantly glazing him and he's like, oh, stop it guys. There's just such a sense of community during this time. Everyone's got each other's back.
Oi, fuck off. Oh yeah, Hal Jordan's alive again.
When Superman's in trouble, Jimmy rushes in, putting himself at risk, giving Superman the advantage he needs to beat Lex. That's my guilt right there. Clark reflects on how lucky he is. To even
I
have
like the
opportunity
character development of Jimmy Olsen in this video.
to save lives. How there are so many people less fortunate than him that would be begging to be in his position. And so he'll do it tired, he'll do it stressed.
That's
and
fucking
overstimulated,
smile.
because he's Superman. This all comes from the story arc Up, Up and Away by Kurt Busiek, Jeff Johns, Pete Woods, and Renato Guedes. It is one of my favourite Superman comics, and I need to stop talking about it now, or we'll be here for hours.
Do a video on it then.
Divorces Pete on the grounds that she just doesn't love him. Probably something to do with the fact that Lana constantly daydreams about her teenage years with Clark and how no other man could compete with Superman. Sucks for Pete, whose time as president has come to an end, and he moves back to Smallville to raise his son. But while Lana and Pete's relationship lies in the bin, Lois and Clark's is, it's going pretty well, with them even talking about having a child. Both of them are keen on the idea, albeit slightly skeptical, like how would that work? Although the universe decides for them when it brings them in contact with this kid. This is the son of Phantom Zone criminal General Zod, who was not the one who was killed by Superman previously. Those guys were actually from a Pockets universe that was created to keep the Legion of Superheroes timeline intact following Crisis. I didn't tell you at the time because it's complicated.
Forgot about that. Yeah, Pocket Universe.
Don't worry about it. Point is, this main version of Zod has this kid, whose origin story is very similar to Clark's, with one key difference. When Clark was sent off, it was an act of selflessness from his parents. It was a last-ditch effort for the sake of their son. For Zod, though, his kid is just a tool. He was born in the Phantom Zone, so for some reason that makes him immune to a lot of the zone's effects. And so when he's sent off in a rocket designed to breach the zone and land on Earth, it's not for the sake of the kid. As long as he can
J-Ray
maintain the breach
Max.
on Earth for everyone else to escape through, I mean, who cares about the kid? After Clark intercepts the rocket, he sees so much of himself in this child. He sees a chance to do for this child what his foster parents did for him long ago and put him on the right path. Him and Lois take the kid in, slap a pair of glasses on him so no one recognizes him from his highly publicized arrival on Earth, and they give him the name Christopher. Christopher Kent. Sadly, Christopher doesn't stick around for long, since Zod comes knocking with a full-scale invasion and demands that his son returns to his side. It turns out, however, that Clark and Lois have left an impression on Christopher in the short amount of time he's been with them. And he ultimately betrays his biological father, sacrificing himself to save the day
damn
in
it.
the Phantom Zone. This unfortunately puts a pin in the whole having a kid thing for now, but this does open up the idea of the main universe Superman being a parent, crystallizing his values by passing them on to the next generation, which will be explored later down the line. Anyway, speaking of losing an adoptive family member to a long-standing villain, we soon get the storyline Superman Brainiac, which reveals that all of the Brainiacs we've met so far have just been drones, clones, mere extensions of the real Brainiac, whom we
I just realized you didn't mention the Matrix Supergirl. That's a pretty big deal,
finally get to meet.
I
Now,
guess.
Brainiac himself isn't a full-on robot, but he might as well be. While Superman grew up in a warm, loving environment, Brainiac has spent the last couple centuries hunched over in the dark while he floats through the cold of space. While Superman relies on his friends and family to be there for him, Brainiac has only himself. He's only got his own drones and duplicates to back him up. One of the things that makes Clark human, like the rest of us, is the way he processes information. If you give him a hard choice, he'll
Oh,
really have
jeez,
to
that
think about it.
face.
What's the right thing to do? Is there a way to help both sides? How will it make me feel? You know, he has all these emotions and morals that complicate things.
Ow.
If both Superman and Brainiac saw a sunset, Superman would appreciate its beauty. He'd perhaps be inspired to start a new painting in his fortress, or it would take him back to the days where he would watch the sun go down with his parents in Smallville.
Aw.
Brainiac, on the other hand, he wouldn't care. He'd be much happier looking at the Wikipedia article instead. And that's enough for him. That's what he considers beauty.
Yo, Bronze Age Brainiac, the best Brainiac design when he was just like a Terminator.
Just this endless collection of data. Infinity stored without subjectivity. Any choice is easy for him. He'll choose whatever option gets him the most control. Whatever lets him evolve and collect and conquer until he achieves total domination of everything, ever, forever. When Superman enters Brainiac's ship, it goes the same way it did in the Silver Age. He finds Kandor, he's like, great, a city of Kryptonians. I'm gonna get you guys out of here and get you back to normal. However, this is 2008. Our attention spans are worse now, and so we don't have time to wait 20 years for Kandor to be restored. We want results now! And so, Superman soon discovers that the shrunken city's containment field won't hold for long outside of the ship. He needs to find somewhere to put it, fast, before it enlarges any minute. While Clark is off busy with that, Brainiac plans his vengeance. Superman has disrupted this beautiful collection of data, his ship, his home, and now that Superman has taken his home away from him, it's only appropriate that he takes away Superman's.
Is that the design from Lego Batman 2 and 3? It looks like it. Which, now that I think about it, what a downgrade Lego Batman 3 was for Brainiac. He had such a good voice. Like that one cutscene he had. Well, he also had another bit of dialogue, but that was it. And it's such a good voice. And then they just went, I am Brainiac, instead of like, I am Brainiac. Like, such a downgrade. I'm still pissed about that game. Like, it was still a bit disappointing in the end.
Earlier in the story, Brainiac knows.
Is that the guy from Red Letter Media?
All about how Superman thinks. His favorite pretzels, his workplace, his hometown, his parents. Oh shit. And so, the Man of Two Worlds watches on as one world returns, completely unaware that his other world is currently ending. And by the time he gets back, it's too late. Jonathan Kent has died. It's good to keep in mind, though, that Jonathan doesn't die from the explosion that hits their house. It's the heart attack he has immediately after.
Oh.
He had a weak heart, he was old, and while Brainiac's drone certainly sped up the process, this would have happened sooner or later. Clark could say, oh, this is all my fault, if only I was faster, and blah 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 blah. But this is unfortunately a fact of life, and it's important for readers, especially the younger ones, to know that grief is something that even Superman has to deal with. When Jonathan dies, there's no positive spin on it at the end of the story. There's no one saying, well, at least he died saving people, doing what he believed in, or don't worry Clark, you're gonna go on and you're gonna make him proud. Nah, it just sucks. It'll always suck. The comic lets you sit with that for a while, and I think
like
that's very
that.
important. After this, we get another crisis. God, there's
Fuck me, Final Crisis.
so many of them. I'm not even gonna pretend to understand this.
What the? Oh yeah, I forgot. Captain Karen and his amazing zoo crew are here. Because why not? I think that's the anti-monitor. No, the monitor. The actual anti. Nick's fucking Roton.
Then Earth 2 Superman's corpse comes back as a Black Lantern.
Oh fuck, I forgot about that.
Only to be destroyed by Mr. Terrific.
Hell yeah, my goat.
Open away, you undead piece of... As for our Clark, he's still in mourning, but he has other things to think about. Mainly the fact that Kandor is just now on Earth. And while he sure is happy about this, there are others that might be a little frightened at the idea of thousands of super beings roaming the planet. One of these people is General Lane, Lois's
oh shit!
asshole dad in the military, who's
this guy was around for a few
for
years.
what he calls a Kryptonian invasion. He calls in Lex, who is just
Oh.
running this shit. He gets to access all of these military bases. He gets to mess around with Brainiac's
Oh,
mind.
sorry, I was confusing General Lane with General Wade Eiling, I think. He was basically Red Hulk before Red
He's able
Hulk.
to prove that he is humanity's champion, capable of standing up to these super beings with nothing but his raw intellect. Although the military aren't the only ones out for blood. Doomsday makes a return, doing his usual, attacking the city, trying to kill Superman. I can't help but feel like Doomsday peaked in his first appearance.
Yeah.
I mean, he killed Superman. There's no one-upping that. Every appearance since has been like watering down vodka, to the point where there's just nothing left. I know they've tried to make him interesting. They've said, oh, he's gaining sentience now, he's evolving. Okay.
I don't care.
With that? Right philosophy? Open up a small business? No, he just tries to kill Superman. That's all they have him do, and it's almost laughable here, given that Superman has like 1,000 Kryptonians
Yeah.
now, so they just spawn kill Doomsday the second he shows up.
Spawn kill Doomsday.
They fucking jump him. Now this version
Yeah.
of Kandor doesn't have the best effect on our heroes. At first, Kara is overjoyed to see her parents, Zor-El and Allura, but she soon finds them controlling. They rob her of her independence, and when Zor-El is sadly killed by General Lane's operation, Allura tightens her fist even more. As de facto leader of Kandor, she takes matters into her own hands, preparing her people for war and freeing General Zod, who now leads their new, highly advanced Kryptonian military. They abandon their place in the Arctic and establish a new planet in Earth's orbit, called New Krypton. All of this is real difficult for Clark. He's quite literally a man of two worlds now, torn between the two.
Okay.
two sides, struggling to do what's best for both of them. His powers don't make him special anymore, given that everyone else can do the same as him, but fortunately, his powers were never the only thing special about him. Clark tries to show his people a better way. He gives them a taste of his humanity, and he doesn't just stand around preaching, inspiring people through his words. He's not a glorified youth pastor, he actually leads by example, and is more than willing to use violence if it serves a purpose. During his time on New Krypton, he demonstrates all of the things he's picked up from his friends and family. The thoughtfulness of his foster parents, the diplomacy of Lois, the hand-to-hand combat skills of Batman. He teaches these people that the value of their new society shouldn't be based on how much power they have, or their grand plans for the future. Their real value should come from how they treat the so-called little people, the underprivileged. Honestly, the story of New Krypton is pretty interesting. There's all this political intrigue with spies and saboteurs. It shows that Krypton has never been inherently evil. It's a wonderful place, it has so much potential. Although, like all societies, it's susceptible to fear, ignorance.
There's no questions to be answered here. Traitors at home, enemies outside. He knew his name. They tried to murder the general. They tried to murder us on. I mean,
those in power turn their backs at the first sign of tension, and just like its predecessor many years ago, New Krypton eventually crumbles. A bunch of Kryptonians die, a bunch of humans die, the British Prime Minister is dead.
What the fuck? They killed David Cameron? Wait, no, this would have been before. Who was... They killed David Cameron. That's a YouTube short for you. British Prime Minister before David Cameron. It was in 2009. Gordon Brown. Okay, so they killed fucking Gordon Brown.
Lex and Brainiac team up, of tension. And just like its predecessor many years ago, New Krypton eventually crumbles. A bunch of Kryptonians die, a bunch of humans die, the British Prime Minister is dead, Lex and Brainiac team up, killing a bunch of people, Lois's dad dies, deserved, then Brainiac kills Lex, but it turns out Lex was just a robot, then one of Lex's weapons destroys New Krypton, so Zod's like, fuck it, we'll destroy Earth, leading to a whole bunch of death and destruction, with Clark and Kara caught in the middle of it
They
all.
killed Gordon Brown.
The bright side really is that we get to see Christopher again. Chris has been aged up as a side effect of being in the Phantom Zone, and having been freed from the zone during the events of the story,
because
is now
Batman.
fighting crime under the name of Nightwing. Not like the Nightwing from Batman though. No, this is actually a tribute to the original
pointed
Nightwing
this out
and
earlier.
Flamebird, which were the secret identities Clark and Jimmy used way back during the original Kandor storyline. Chris pairs up with his fellow Kryptonian, Thara, as Flamebird, and he will continue as Nightwing after the event is over, or at least until he gets sued by Dick. By now, we're in 2011, and we have reached...
Although the Kryptonian Nightwing came first in
the
you.
final arc of this universe. The series that started it all, Action Comics, is now on issue 900, with its sister titles having reached similarly eye-watering numbers. We get the final confrontation between Superman and Lex, who's managed to fuse himself with a powerful being from the Phantom Zone, essentially giving him the power of a god. This is the ultimate test of Lex's philosophy. He's always said that if it wasn't for Superman, he'd save the world. Without the Kryptonians standing in the way, he'd bring humanity forward into a new age of prosperity. So, now that Superman doesn't pose a threat to him, now that he has no excuses whatsoever, what does he do? He tries to kill Superman. Of course! Who are we kidding? Now, Lex has experienced terrible things in the past. It's what shaped his pessimistic worldview, and that's...
The last... Oh, shit. Oh, wow. All of them just say the end.
why he's so convinced that Superman is this unfeeling alien who only pretends to feel emotion. Because if he were to accept the truth, that Superman's actually a regular guy who's gone through the worst and turned out fine, then what does that say about himself? Well, it says he was weak, that he went down the wrong path, that people are capable of doing good despite all the bad things in the world. He just isn't one of them. He's not humanity's champion, he's their biggest loser. And because he'll never accept this, he'll never look inward, it costs him this power. And so Lex ends up like he always does, on the receiving end of a superpowered punch. His jaw shattered, but his ego fully intact.
Oh.
Lex leaves behind one final gift, an army of Doomsday clones that Superman and his allies must defeat. It's really just an excuse for everyone to come together. All of the heroes we've met over the years, Kara, Connor, Steel, Eradicator, Obama, Cyborg, Superman...
Fucking... Stop! Obama?
Everyone's like,
Obama?
what are you doing here, mate? And they instantly kill him. Overall, it's a fairly decent story to end on. It's not life-changing or anything, but it's just nice. It's got a nice ending, we've got Clark and Lois going for dinner. These characters have been through a lot, so it's really satisfying to see them still together, stronger than ever. You know, it's Hey, it's DC. How are you liking our universe? Yeah, no, it's good. Yeah, a bit shaky towards the start. You know, I didn't think... Alright, you like how things are going now, though, right? Yeah? You like Clark and Lois being married? Yeah, totally. Okay, cool. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna blow the whole thing up. We're just gonna level everything. Total reset. And, these new comics, they're gonna be part of our upcoming strategy, right? Our new initiative. It's called Make Everything Kind of Dog Shit for No Reason. Or New 52 for short. I'm sorry, what?
I love the New 52 so much. I do. Absolutely one of the... Like, people go say, oh, it was needed. It was like, sales were going, who cares? It just fucking ruined everything.
So far, we've had 3 main versions of Superman. The original Superman on Earth 2, his successor on Earth 1, and then we have the post-crisis version that we've just spent the past however many minutes discussing. Now we get the New 52, a company-wide initiative that completely switches up the DC universe following the events of Flashpoint, where Barry Allen went back in time and fucked up the timeline, leading to a bunch of changes to the continuity. First things first, no trunks. This is 2011. Superheroes wear underwear on the inside now. I know, what's that? You liked Lois and Clark being together, being married? Nah, Mephisto those motherfuckers. We'll make it so that in this universe they never got married and are instead just friends. They've even got their own Paul, too. His name's Jonathan, and he's the most nothing character to ever exist. Jonathan and Martha Kent? Too wholesome, too alive. Let's kill them in a car accident years ago, with Clark becoming Superman on his own, without their guidance. There's no Superboy either. It's probably why Clark couldn't save his parents in the crash. He didn't have the years of training as a kid. He wasn't
I hate this.
as aware of his powers.
This is so
Too
terrible.
busy focusing on Clark Kent stuff. Okay, we're on a roll here. Let's change more stuff. Lois's asshole dad is still alive. Why not? Jimmy Olsen? You all love Jimmy Olsen? Let's make him a real piece of work. Lazy, cheeky, always butting in, but not in a charming way. Let's make him a shit photographer too, fuck it. I guess that while there are a lot of changes, the world isn't completely unrecognizable. We still have Kara, Steel, Crypto. We've got the usual villains like Lex, and Brainiac, and Metallo, and Mr. Mix's Pitalik, and Doomsday, and Parasite, and Bizarro, and Darkseid. And these guys are more or less the same.
What the fuck is that costume? Suit. What?
They may have different origin stories, but the core essence of their characters is still... Hold on, is that... Oh shit, is that Ultra Humanite? They brought back Ultra Humanite! Yeah! It does get really frustrating, since a big part of this new universe is seeing Superman meeting all of these villains.
I'm shocked he didn't mention Ultra Humanite being a white gorilla for so long.
For the first time, discovering where he comes from, and developing these relationships. And it's like... we already had this shit. They really do rub it in that the marriage is gone as well. They'll have Jimmy say, hey, Superman, it's a good thing you don't have a wife. Or they'll tease you. They'll have Lois discover Clark's identity, and you're like, okay, the ball's rolling here, let's see what happens. Only for her to lose her memory, and then we're back to square one. Great. Any hope of them getting together is then crushed when Clark gets into a serious long-term relationship with a woman. And like, okay, they're both super people. They can kiss in the sky. Hooray, couple of the year. I don't know, they just work better as friends for me. When it's Clark, Diana, and Bruce in their iconic trinity. I think the New 52 is a good example of why canon doesn't matter, or more specifically, why you shouldn't let the concept of canon narrow down your idea of what Superman should be. See, when I get frustrated with this new universe, it's because I'm looking at the comics as this one big story.
Yeah.
In terms of story progression, we just took a huge step backwards. We threw a bunch of stuff out, and so I'm like, fuck this, what are we doing here? However, while the overall story feels like it's gone backwards, the New 52 does some interesting stuff with the character that they couldn't really do in the previous continuity.
Okay.
I'm mainly talking about Grant Morrison's run.
Of
in
course,
comics.
Grant Morrison's is a god. I mean, I think they are.
Which reimagines Clark's early years as a crime fighter.
They showed up one day in the 80s and out of nowhere.
Starting off as Superman after his parents' deaths. I didn't give this series a chance when I first read it, because I was so focused on this one big narrative. I thought, ugh, you've got rid of Superboy, you've messed with my canon, so I'm not even gonna care about this alternative take. But when I focused on the book for what it actually was, when I looked at it in isolation,
Keystone
I was like,
City.
huh, this is actually pretty cool. I like the slightly older, reassuring, dad-like Superman that we had before, but I also like this younger, angrier Superman, ruthlessly fighting against the corrupt elite. It's like they've brought him back to his roots. He's the champion of the oppressed again, taking no shit from the authorities, taking on wife beaters. And hey, I like the Kents being alive, but I also think the way they handle their deaths in the New 52 works just as well. Their absence, ironically, has way more of a presence in Clark's life than them actually being there. And
Weird.
so I can appreciate both versions separately. I don't have to worry about this grander canon. I can just focus on whether the individual story is good or not. That's the beauty of the DC universe.
I
If you want
guess
to
so,
take this
yeah.
one big timeline, then you can. DC will give you an in-universe
Fuck is that
explanation for
symbol?
all of the changes, be it the Anti-Monitor or the Flash going back in time. These inconsistencies and contradictions become part of the narrative, and while there will be points of frustration, you can make sense of it all if you try hard enough. But if you don't want to do that, if you don't want to bother with all this lore and all these different universes and timelines, then you don't have to. You can treat reading Superman comics as this fluid thing, where you pick up a book, and in it his parents might be alive, or they might be dead, and Lex Luthor might be a scientist, or he might be a businessman, and you just kind of roll with it. Who really cares, as long as it's an interesting story?
Fair
That's
enough.
why you have to be careful saying stuff
Just give him his fucking trunks. Just have him wear them.
like, Superman should be this. He's got to have X, Y, and Z, otherwise he's not Superman. Superman can actually be a lot of different, contradictory things, and all of these takes on the character matter. Even if you don't think they're good, they still say something about the time period they were made in. It's fun to compare the different versions and think about why certain ideas didn't work out. Another plus of this new universe is that it does something interesting with Lex. This Lex gets a taste of heroics, making a difference, saving the world. He even saves Superman's life.
Shut the fuck
Now,
up,
I've seen this
YouTube.
before
I
in
don't care about encoding overload.
timelines, but in this universe, Lex seems to have actually changed. Him wanting to join the Justice League is for the sake of his ego, yes, but it does also come from a genuine desire to grow, to offer something more than hate. He no longer sees Superman as the biggest threat to humanity, and while the League are initially skeptical, they eventually let him join up. But while Lex is having a good time being a hero, Superman has seen better days. His downfall begins when his identity is exposed to the world, not only losing him his privacy, but also his job, his relationships, his whole life basically. Then he starts to lose his powers, his relationship with Diana gets rocky, and as a cherry on top, he finds out that he is now dying, and his condition is terminal. Now, we've been here before, we know how it goes. I mean, this version of Superman's only been around for like, what, 4 years worth of comics now? I'm not dumb, it's obvious they're not actually gonna kill the mainline version of it. Oh god, that was quick. See, unlike Marvel, who would rather die than admit they made a mistake by changing their continuity, DC said, alright, you don't like the New 52 Superman? Fair enough.
Where's your trunks, Batman? You look fucking stupid without them.
We'll kill him and swap him out for the previous version you guys liked. I'm not joking, they actually did this.
Yeah.
See, shortly before this Clark's death, another Clark shows up. An older, more experienced hero who remembers a different time. A version of history not unlike the one erased during Flashpoint. Turns out that this Clark is one of the only survivors of the previous universe, plucked from his reality along with Lois by a multiversal version of Brainiac and placed onto this patchwork world. Think of it as DC's version of Secret Wars, right? All of these heroes from previously forgotten universes.
Convergence.
Earth 1, Earth 2, New Earth. They're all thrown into this big
Where's
thing.
your trunks? Where's Superwoman's trunks on the left? Oh my god. I'm sorry to complain so much, but they look so dog shit
They
without
have to
them.
work together to put the multiverse back to the way it was.
Bizarro, where's your fucking
Now,
trunks?
Clark and Lois spend a long time on this world, and during this time, Lois becomes pregnant, giving birth to a baby boy who they name Jonathan Samuel Kent. Then,
Uh-oh.
once the event is over and reality is more or less put back to normal, Lois, Clark, and baby John find themselves stranded in the New 52 universe. This Earth is not like the one they're used to. Everyone is younger. This world's Superman is going out with Wonder Woman instead of Lois, and so Lois and Clark choose a life of anonymity. Clark performs his heroics in secret, as to not interfere with this world's Superman and to keep his
Fair
family out
enough.
of danger. Meanwhile, Lois publishes her usual groundbreaking work under a pseudonym, bringing awareness to important issues from the shadows. It's a
Okay.
pretty sweet deal. They get to live on a farm, raising John, teaching him a work ethic, a sense of responsibility. They hide the truth from him at first, although it becomes increasingly difficult to do so as he gets older. He keeps asking questions like, hey, why does my dad look so much like Superman? Why is there a lady at the Daily Planet who looks so much like my mother? Then, when he starts to develop powers of his own, they're forced to come clean about who they really are and where they come from. They're like, ever heard of the multiverse, son? Then everything changes when the New 52 Superman dies. Now that this world doesn't have a Superman, Clark is encouraged to come out of the shadows and take his place. He's surprised to find out that this world's Lex is a lot more cooperative, willing to put aside their beef for the greater good. Lex also helps
Now
Clark
that's where that suit from DC Supervillains comes from.
out the problem that he inherited from the dead Superman. The fact that the people of this Earth know all about Clark Kent and his secret identity. They make up some story about how Clark isn't actually Superman, he was pretending to, he was helping, I don't know. The secret identity stuff is eventually reset, that's all that matters. And as Clark gets his old life back, Lois manages to do the same. See, when New 52 Superman died, he did so surrounded by his loved ones, including his version of Lois and Lana. During his death, the two women were struck by this mysterious force, almost like Clark's superpowers got passed on to them. For Lana, this works out great, and she becomes the new Superwoman. Lois, though, for whatever reason, is overwhelmed by the power, and is eventually vaporized in the same manner as Clark. Believing her Lois to be dead, Lana then tells the older Lois about what happened, and they decide that for the sake of the dead Lois's loved ones, all the people who are counting on her, the older Lois should just replace her, quietly slip into her life, and hope that no one questions why she looks slightly older. I think if you're reading it all through, you'd get a really interesting experience if you just skipped the New 52 and went straight to this stuff. By missing a chapter, you'd be right there with the older Clark and Lois, disoriented in this new world where everything's a bit different and they're not sure why.
Fun.
When Lois reintegrates herself into society, you'll feel the same confusion she does. When she shows back up at the Daily Planet, she recognizes Jimmy and Perry and Steve, but there are new faces such as Jackie, and you'll be like, yeah, who the fuck is Jackie? You'll also share Clark's wariness regarding Lex. You'll be like, wait, is this version of Lex truly different from the previous one? Does he mean it when he talks about Superman being an inspiration and wanting to be the self-made superhero? Or is this another one of his schemes? Anyways, this era produces some of my favourite stories from the 2010s. We get the writers Tomasi and Gleason's run, a series that is a lot of fun. We get to spend time with Lois and Clark as parents. John gets to be a kid, running around on the farm, playing with Krypton, finding friends his own age. Clark has to fight this overprotectiveness he's always had. He realizes how hard it is to raise any child, let alone a superpowered one, and it makes him appreciate just how much of a good job his parents did with him. John's a really good kid. He's got such a good heart, always offering to help those in need, always trying to protect his family. He's just got this light in his eyes that says, yeah, that's Superman's kid. No doubt about it. At the same time though, John is like any 11-year-old. He's reckless, easily upset. He disobeys his parents when he can't see the bigger picture.
That's like my younger brother, but he's just an asshole, and he's like 16.
He doesn't know shit about how to carry himself in the real world, because again, he's just a kid. Through John, we can see that being Superman isn't just about having a desire to do good, or knowing what the right thing to do is. It's about having patience, life experience, being able to think outside the box. Sure, you might know what's good and what's bad, but what if the situation is a bit more complicated than that? What if there are some details you didn't originally think about that come back to bite you later? It's Clark's job to teach his kid this thoughtfulness, this patience, but he can't do it by lecturing him or getting mad when John does the wrong thing. He has to let him make his own mistakes, figure out his own way of doing things, and over time Clark learns that fatherhood is not just about what he can teach John, but what John can teach him. As a father, he's gonna make mistakes too, and that's okay. They can learn from each other. So this is really nice, but it's still a bit weird thinking about how this isn't Clark's world, technically. When he visits the graves of his foster parents, those aren't technically his parents. The Justice League that he meets with isn't the same Justice League that he founded. And so we get a storyline called Superman Reborn, which attempts to correct this. At the end of the story, Clark and Lois have their current selves and their New 52 selves merged together. These characters' histories are now like a tapestry. It's a single timeline, fitting together both versions of these characters in a way that's supposed to be consistent. No one remembers that the New 52 Superman Superman died, because in
Oh.
this world there's only ever been one Superman and one Lois. The new status quo is basically how it was before the New 52, just with some elements of the New 52 sprinkled in there. Clark, Lois, and John have moved back to Metropolis. Everyone knows they have a kid now, so they can take him into work at the Daily Planet.
Oh,
Clark
neat.
fights the Superman Revenge Squad, which consists of classic villains such as Metallo, Mongo, Cyborg Superman. Lex, however, is still on the side of the Angels, and is a part of the Superman family, which also includes Lana Lang as Superwoman. It's all pretty smooth sailing until one day Clark's biological father shows up, Mr. Jor-El himself.
Oh,
Turns
shit.
out that Jor-El, the scientist previously thought to have died with Krypton, actually survived thanks to some unseen, all-powerful force that he can't explain. This mysterious force led him straight to Earth, where he gets to see the life
Oh,
his son has
no.
built, and most importantly, meet his grandson. Now, as we've already explored, Clark feels a bit disconnected from Earth. As a survivor of Krypton, he's never gonna 100% fit in with humanity. He'll always leave a bit of room for his Kryptonian side. And so when Jor-El shows up, he pulls on that side of Clark. He says, "You don't belong here, and you know it. You and John should come with me instead. We can start our own Kryptonian society." And although Clark is just trying to protect his son by saying no, in doing so, he is somewhat denying John the opportunity to connect with his Kryptonian side. Clark knows what it's like to be this young outsider on Earth, confused
Ah,
and lonely,
Pa Kent's still
desperately
alive.
wanting to know about this other side of him, this other lost culture. So if John is more than willing to hear his granddad out, is it right for Clark to deny him this? Shouldn't he at least consider what Jor-El is saying? Unfortunately, this dilemma is cut short when Jor-El is once again whisked away by this mysterious, all-powerful force. What is this shit? This force of interference messing things up just when we're getting somewhere. And I'm not just talking about what's happened with Jor-El. I mean, this whole universe has had someone or something pulling the strings from the beginning.
Oh.
Sure, the Flash may have been the one who
Yep.
changed the timeline originally, but he couldn't be responsible for everything. No, it turns out that there was some outside entity that stepped in and made all of these changes.
You won't believe who the fuck this is. I remember when this happened, I heard about this and was like, oh my fucking god, are you kidding me? There's no way, but yeah.
Made everyone younger. It erased Lois and Clark's relationship. It took Jonathan and Martha from us. But who? Who could have done this? Did I ever tell you guys about Watchmen?
Yep.
Watchmen by Alan Moore and Dave Gibbons is one of the most popular comics of all time,
Yep.
and for a good reason. Issue 4, the tragic story of how Dr. Manhattan goes from an ordinary atomic physicist to an omnipotent god completely detached from humanity, is one of my favourite single issues ever. So when DC announced a sequel to Watchmen over 30 years later, not written by Alan Moore or penciled by Dave Gibbons, and would feature the world of Watchmen colliding with the main DC universe,
Yeah.
it's safe to say that I, and a lot of other people, were a bit skeptical. Doomsday Clock reveals that it was Dr. Manhattan
Yep.
who's been behind all of this weird shit. Having used his godlike powers to leave his own universe
Why?
and go to the DC one, he was the one who stepped in and erased Superboy, which led to the Kent's deaths and so on. He did this out of curiosity, this fascination with the idea of Superman. Who is this guy, he thinks? This being who keeps appearing across all of these different eras? How can one man affect so much? And so Manhattan changed history in order to get a better understanding of Superman, taking apart the DC universe like you
We're
would
almost
with
done.
Sponge, messing about with all the pieces
I'm
and putting them back
starving.
together differently just to see how it all works. You've got these two completely different characters. You've got a god who sees the future set in stone and therefore thinks that trying to change things is pointless, versus a man who believes there's always another way and will never stop fighting for a better tomorrow. And when Superman succeeds despite all odds, when he manages to find a better path, Dr. Manhattan's worldview implodes just because of how fucking awesome Superman is. Superman's perseverance, his kindness, and his charm.
Oh my
his
god.
intelligence. That wasn't given to him by some otherworldly force, some god. It came from a kindly couple on a humble farm. These
Yeah.
two seemingly insignificant people changed the world with these little acts of kindness. These little moments day to day that shaped Clark as a person. And those small actions they ended up rippling through time. Clark would go on to inspire millions. These actions shaped entire universes.
Better late than
Having
never.
regained his humanity a little, Manhattan decides to undo his changes to the timeline. Since the New 52 started, we've seen Clark missing his foster parents so many times, wishing so deeply that they were still around to help him. We've seen that car crash over and over, Clark replaying it in his mind again and again. And so when Dr. Manhattan puts events in motion, when Clark is inspired to put on the cape a bit earlier, the car doesn't have to crash anymore. Superboy lives. My reaction to this story is the same as I would react if they made a sequel to Oppenheimer, where he gets sent to the MCU, gets inspired when he meets Spider-Man or some shit, and then he returns to his universe in the end, all happy and appreciating life again. It's inherently silly, probably missing the point of the original work.
Yeah.
But I don't know, I like the overall message behind it. I like the idea that the DC universe is like an organism, fighting to survive, and that Superman is like the white blood cells it keeps
Yeah.
producing. A constant force of goodness that keeps emerging throughout time, keeping hope alive across multiple generations. There is a Superman for every era, and each time a new version is introduced, humanity gets closer and closer to embracing his ideas. They're inspired to dream even
Yeah.
bigger, to be more tolerant of each other, and even in worlds where he doesn't physically exist, Superman will
Oh shit! Damn.
appear in some shape or form.
Mhm.
His influence will still be felt. He will always find a way.
The new
Now,
Silver.
that would have been a cool place to end the video, but we've still got a few years of comics to go, and I'm not gonna lie, it's not amazing. And it's not just the controversial
Oh.
decision that I'm sure a lot of you will know already. I'll get to that in a sec. It's just that the comic has been going for so long now, it suffers from the same thing that any long series has, and it's that so much stuff has happened already. They're juggling so much canon that it's difficult to do something new, to surprise long-time readers. Oh, General Zod's making peace with Superman and forming a new Krypton. Never seen that before. Lois's asshole dad dies again. I mean, I'll always celebrate that, but for all I know, he's just gonna be alive in the next reboot.
Yep.
I know it's for the new readers, but I can't watch Krypton explode for the millionth fucking time. I don't care if there was an evil guy we never knew about and he was the one behind Krypton's demise. Oh, revolutionary, mate. This is yet another example of why you shouldn't let canon bog you down.
Yep.
Having read thousands of issues by this point, I've kind of sacrificed myself to tell you that. Just don't try and read it all through, please. As always, there are some pearls in there. Superman gets a new Fortress of Solitude in the Bermuda Triangle.
What?
That's pretty cool. There's a bit where Jimmy wakes up from a nightmare in which he was a giant gorilla, which is a great little reference to all the wild shit he did in the Silver Age. None of that stuff means anything, however, when it comes to what they did with John. Now, I'm not one of these people who acts like DC personally took my child out to the back and shot him in the head, but I don't think that what they did was a great idea.
Yeah.
Either. Basically, Jor-El takes John on a space adventure. This is all agreed upon, apparently. This is a quick trip so he can spend some time with his grandpa, get in touch with his Kryptonian side. However, Jor-El and John end up separated, some interstellar shit goes down, and by the time John gets back, it's been 3 weeks on Earth, and 5 years for him.
Oh.
I don't think it's the actual aging up that I dislike. It's more just the fact they did nothing interesting with him
Mhm.
afterwards, and it was at the expense of the previous stuff that I enjoyed. John's stories as a kid were
Aw,
great,
kitty
especially
cat.
the ones showing off his dynamic with Damian Wayne, Batman's son. These stories had a unique kind of vibe, it was cute. And now all of a sudden that vibe is gone, that dynamic is gone, so we can get another young adult Superman? We already have that with Connor though. DC hasn't gone back on this decision either, which is surprising because they love doing that with everything else. Lex Luthor was a good guy? Nah, we'll go back on that. Lana had powers? She was Superwoman? Nah, make her a civilian again. Back to normal. Oh, Kandor's back? It's back in the bottle again? Nope, smash it. No more Kandor. And then we get another crisis level event, the details of which would make a first time reader have a heart attack, and then instead of rebooting things and erasing stuff from canon, it's like the reverse. They bring everything back. Or rather, everyone's memories back, so everyone is aware of their lives pre-Flashpoint. So everything's canon. Or rather, everything matters? Okay. What the fuck does that mean, DC? I think now, with this whole everything's canon kind of idea that has characterized the most recent DC initiatives, we've almost entered a new Silver Age of Superman comics. An era where continuity isn't really a big deal, the stories aren't afraid to be colourful and silly,
Yep.
they aren't embarrassed of their past. Recently, we got a new World's Finest series.
Hell
with
yeah, I
Batman and Superman going on all these adventures.
I should read this. I really fucking should. I've heard really good things about this.
Getting sent back in time. We got the Jimmy Olsen series, which is just a hilarious, goofy time. And then we've got the main Superman comics saying, fuck it. We're doing this wild gladiator story in space, and it's just really good. At this point, Superman's mainline history is just a giant melting pot, which can either be incredibly freeing or extremely confusing if you're trying to get into comics for the first time.
Yeah.
If that's you, then fortunately you now have this video. You can pick the part of the video that you found most interesting and jump in there. I've also been careful not to spoil any of the stories I'm about to recommend, and I've chosen a variety of stories, all ones that I've
Okay,
seen
I'll
pretty
keep this in
commonly
mind.
across
I-
multiple comic shops and bookshops, so if you do have access to comic books near you, they'll probably be there.
I have a library that has like 5 books.
If you want to explore Clark's early years, you should check out Superman for All Seasons, written by Jeff Loeb and beautifully illustrated by the late Tim Sale. It's a very emotional tale,
I
very
thought
well
Tim Sale
done.
was
You can
dead.
basically treat this as canon. I mean, like I said, canon doesn't really mean shit anymore.
Yeah.
Just enjoy it on its own. Then, if you want more origin story stuff, you can read Birthright by Mark Waid, Lino Francis Yu, and the late Jerry Allen Gillen. I think people would kill me if I didn't at least mention this story. If you want a really good story with grown-up Superman in his standard setting with all of his classic dynamics, then Up, Up and Away is your best bet. Really strong stuff, one of my personal favourites. If you like the idea of Superman being a dad raising his kid, then Tomasi and Gleason's run is for you, which then leads into Super Sons with John and Damian together.
Super
Again, this is
duper
really good.
edition. That's
And
cute.
if you want to read a more modern story from this decade, I'd recommend the War World saga from 2022, which is the wild gladiator story I mentioned earlier. This was the story that gave me hope that Superman comics in the 2020s were going to be okay, that we weren't totally cooked. On the other hand, if you want some older stuff, if you want to go pre-crisis,
I've
I'd
read
really
this.
recommend
This is
Whatever
a
Happens
great
to the
comic.
Man of Tomorrow by Alan Moore and Kurt Swan. This is a kind of what-if alternate feature that served as a grand finale for everything pre-crisis, just before it was all wiped away by the Anti-Monitor. It's a very touching, magnificent work. It's just as uncomfortable as it is immensely satisfying. And if you like it, also check out For the Man Who Has
I've
Everything,
also read
written
this.
by
This is a
Alan
great
Moore.
comic too.
Lastly, there is All-Star
I
Superman
need to
by Grant
read this.
Morrison, Frank Quitely, and Jamie Grant, which served as the main inspiration for James Gunn's movie. This is the
Yeah.
Superman comic in a lot of people's eyes, and it's set in its own self-contained, fantastical universe. Don't worry, it's normal to read it for the first time and be like, what the hell is going on? Especially since there are some elements of it that haven't appeared in any other comics. But don't try to understand it, just like feel it. And when you read it, a couple times later,
Sbarro,
you'll find
what the
clicks, you're
fuck?
like, oh my god, this is one of the best comics ever made. It's so worth it. I'm not sponsored by DC or anything. One, because I don't have a business email address. And two, I just think it's wrong how superhero movies are like the biggest thing in the world, and yet the people who made that possible, the original comics
Yeah.
writers and artists, are rarely compensated fairly or credited for their work. So all I want really
I like that Fantastic Four where they credited Jack Kirby.
is for people to support the comics. Support the people making it possible. So yeah. Superman. My voice is so fucked from this. Do you know how long this took? Do you know how much recording I had to I can't speak for shit. I had to do every line like 12 times over. Fuck.
Leaning. Arthur Bender. That's one. Bill Finger. Jack Kirby. Probably the most important. Oh yeah, a bunch of Jeff Johns is in there. Michael Wade, George Perez. Rest in peace, George Perez. James Robinson. Okay. I'm copyright strike too. Before I go, because this went on for way too long. 3 hours, Jesus, I'm starving. These two videos are excellent. How J. Jonah Jameson lost everything and Spider-Man vs. Paul Wire fans so mad. They are both excellent videos you should check out. Anyway, thank you so much for, if anyone watches this, thank you. But also watch this video. Watch the original entire history of Superman. It is so fucking good. I had a big smile on my face a lot of the time. It was so funny. Thank you, and see you again